Um, we still are waiting on a few people, but we don't need quorum to start work sessions. So I'd say let's get started. Tonight we have a presentation from our Energize Our Neighborhoods group is in our Housing and Community Development Division in PDS. So Melinda McGoldrick and Nikki Drake are presenting to you virtually tonight to go over what they've been doing. They've been busy even with COVID. So I'll let you two take it away. Thanks.
Thank you, Celine. And thank you everybody for allowing us to join you here tonight and to share a little bit about our program. So I have some slides I put together to help kind of walk you through everything that we do. And then we'll save some time at the end for any questions that you might have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and hope technology works for us today. All right. Okay, so like Celine said, we manage the program called Energize Our Neighborhoods, and we really focus on building community and supporting residents all across the community who want to get more involved. There's a lot of us who work on this on a daily basis. I know some of these faces are probably familiar to you. Ethan Mansfield and Leon Letson, of course, are on our current planning team. They're in front of you a lot. I believe you heard most recently from Deanna Dupuis, who is our neighborhood planner, and then Nikki Drake and myself round out the team. So just a very quick background for you all. Energize really got started when the city was looking at data and how we could better use data to inform decisions and how we could use data to understand the health of our community overall. So we took what used to sit in a lot of different reports and binders on shelves, and they mapped it into layers in GIS. From that, we were able to really see kind of a picture of the city and what areas were doing really well at certain things and what areas potentially needed some additional help and some resources. So looking at all of that data, then of course the big, so what do we do about it moment kind of came up. And it was that opportunity when they said, what if we try to look at one area at a time, one specific neighborhood, and what if we can align all of our resources as a city to work on that space? And then what if we can bring community partners along in that work as well? Obviously the city can affect a lot of different aspects, but by no means everything that affects how a neighborhood is and feels and how people experience their communities. So we really wanted to make sure that we were amplifying that work as much as possible with our community partners. And then of course we wanted to be able to measure what we were doing all along the way. So we started with kind of that basic assessment of the neighborhood, looking at that GIS data, but also going and talking to neighborhoods specifically and the people who lived in that area. As we all know, data can tell one side of the story, but it frequently isn't the whole story. So we were really excited to be able to pair those two things together and then really look at how we can bring partners alongside and identify what those priorities are for each neighborhood. And then of course, work with our partners and the community residents to impact change within those neighborhoods. We've worked on a lot of different kinds of projects over the years, but all of them have kind of those key combination of ingredients of both resident-driven projects and bringing our community partners alongside to help us with all of that work. So in 2014, they got all of this kicked off and we started in the Vista neighborhood. We were really specifically focused in Vista for about 3 years. Those of you who have been on the commission longer probably remember some of this work. Maybe you remember last time I came and talked to you about this. But we did a lot of different things, and all of those projects came out of what the neighborhood specifically told us they wanted to see and what they wanted to have happen. What types of projects would make their lives better on an everyday basis. So listening to that feedback really kind of developed these 8 different areas where we focus our program. The feedback ranged really all across the board when we first reached out and said, hey, tell us what you like about your neighborhood and what you want to work on. It was a long list of projects. And so from that, really these focus areas kind of started to rise to the top. And then also our team structure. So looking at how we could take those neighborhood working groups and really plug residents and community partners into the work that was going on and make sure that they're involved in shaping what the project looks like, in making decisions during the project as we work to implement them. And then of course, in celebrating the work when we get to that point and we're wrapping up a project. So that looks very different depending on the project, but people really dove right in, and we had residents who sat on a committee for each of these focus areas for just about all 3 years of the time that we really focused in that Vista neighborhood. The layer up from that, of course, is our operations team. That's those of us at the city who really focus on this work on a daily basis. For Nikki and I, that's 40 hours a week or sometimes more every day. But there's a lot of other team members whose work overlaps with what we do. And we do a lot to try to make sure that we're aligning our resources as a city, but we're also aligning our programming and how we're implementing projects in areas, which is one of the reasons why we're excited to be talking to you here tonight, is really that alignment of what we hear from residents and then how that ends up looking in the built environments in which they live. Of course, over this all is our strategic leadership team and those partners who bring their resources, their time, their talents to help make all of these projects possible. So when residents come to us with project ideas, sometimes it's something that we can do and we have the resources available and we can get it done pretty quickly. And sometimes it's something where a community partner might take the lead on implementing that project, or they might bring funding to the table or some sort of subject matter expertise that helps us get that work done. Over the years, we have developed a long list of partners who have come alongside the work we do. I am definitely not going to read this to you or expect you to read it in any way, shape, or form. Just really the goal here is to demonstrate that there's a lot of people who help us do this work and a lot of partners out there in our community who are really interested in making sure that Boise stays a great place for everybody to live and that they want to help us achieve that goal and help neighborhood residents feel empowered to do this kind of work. So Energized started off with this kind of idea of let's just get a bunch of projects done. Let's hear what the neighborhood wants to have happen and let's run out there and start doing the work. And we have done that, but along the way, hearing from people, there's a lot of other aspects of kind of neighborhood development and of community that they were really interested in having more resources to help them do or having us offer as a resource. So the evolution of our program has expanded over the years to really kind of incorporate more than just project implementation, but that's still a huge part of what we do. We work really closely and in conjunction with neighborhood planning and the things that Deanna was sharing with you when she was in front of your commission last, but really making sure that we're in alignment there and helping to bring more people into that process so that we're hearing a broader range of the voices and the needs and the aspirations of a community. The other pieces of this are a little bit more fun side of things, looking at celebration. So helping people, come together as a neighborhood and think about what makes them unique and what they want to celebrate and what's special about their area. And then for us, capacity building is a really kind of key ingredient of what we do and helping people understand how they can engage in the process. So we offer them resources and tips and kind of how-to guides that help them do everything from coming to testify in front of a commission or council to how to plan a neighborhood event or how to run their neighborhood association more effectively, kind of a very broad range of things. We offer a workshop series. We also host a community conference, and a lot of work has gone into different resources that support the community in that aspect. And then the last piece, the administration and support, is really helping our neighborhood associations function as smoothly as possible and helping them get plugged into the different resources they need or the different kinds of topics they're interested in, and kind of helping make sure that that aspect of community engagement is available and open to others to be a part of. So we did a lot of work in Vista. And then from there, of course, the question was, so what's Energized going to do next? Where's your next neighborhood? How is this program going to continue to grow? So Leon Letson brought up this idea with us because he had been doing a lot of work in the West Valley neighborhood. For those of you who are familiar, Ustick was a historic town site. It's located basically between 5 Mile and Cloverdale, out on the western side of the city. But he'd been doing a lot of work in that neighborhood and had met a lot of the residents, and they were really interested in building a sense of community and helping people recognize kind of the uniqueness of that space and that area and the history of that area as well. So we started working with them and doing kind of our process of asking them what they wanted to see and what kinds of projects they had in mind. And from that, we did quite a few projects, like the landscaping out there in the medians and along the side of Ustick Road, And then also currently still in development is this USTIC placemaking project out in Redwood Park, where we have moved an abutment that used to be on the side of USTIC Road into the park and created a little seating area out of it with a shelter. There's a public art piece that is in the works, and some other signage and things like that that will help people kind of have an opportunity to learn more about that area. So we are continuing work in that space, and it was kind of a more focused approach for us. And then in 2018, one of our partners, the Boise School District, embarked on this new plan to really embrace community schools. So the idea that a school should function as a hub for the community, and that resources would be available there to support not only students, but their parents, and then also surrounding neighbors. And so they started identifying schools where they were going to bring in extra resources and services. And to us, that made a lot of sense, something we would love to partner with. And so when we approached them about that, they were really excited to continue working together. And so we started expanding our program as well to go alongside those community schools that they had identified. So my colleague Nikki is going to share a little bit about the work that we did in those specific neighborhoods.
You. All right, so the 3 neighborhoods we started working in were South Boise Village, where Garfield Elementary Community School is located, West Bench Neighborhood Association, where Morley Nelson is, and then the West End neighborhood, where Whittier Elementary is. So we started the partnerships in these 3 neighborhoods with what we call this visioning process, and it was really a pretty in-depth process where the idea is that we want folks who live, work, and have children who attend school in a neighborhood the opportunity to provide feedback and input that really is helping to shape, this community and strengthen it. So that included several questions. We asked things like, what does a livable neighborhood look like? What are the strengths of your neighborhood? We asked whether folks feel connected and engaged with their neighbors, with other residents, and then also what types of projects and improvements they would like to see take place to strengthen the neighborhood. And I'm just going to break down kind of the engagement piece for each of these 3 neighborhoods. So again, engagement was pretty extensive process. So for the better part of a year, we undertook these visioning events, and we also partnered with the community schools to attend those events. So it was kind of this mix of standalone neighborhood events and then events with the schools. So we had 9 events in total, and about 160 participants from the neighborhood and the school. We also, and these were spread out from basically spring through fall. We also had an online survey of all those same questions that was available in 5 different languages. And, really, as I talk through this, you'll see a kind of a common theme. Our goal was that folks, the goal was to have a low barrier opportunity for folks to be engaged in this process when and where they could. So we took all of the feedback that we got, hundreds and hundreds of comments, and we compiled them, we analyzed them, we pulled together staff from some of our different departments, Parks and Rec, Arts and History, some of our planners, to really look at that and say, okay, this is what folks would like to see. This is what their priorities are. Now, what are some projects that address those and speak to that are, realistic, feasible? And so we had a chance to kind of vet those and brainstorm. And from that, we came up with a list of 5 projects that we then wanted to put out to vote to the neighborhood. So that was an exciting process. We had an open house, and that was a chance for us to, display information, provide visuals, answer questions, that sort of thing about all 5 projects. And then residents were able to vote for their top project, for one project. We also sent out postcards so that folks who could not come in person were able to mail those in so they could vote for their project and mail it in. So again, the goal, low barrier opportunity for folks to be involved. So we had a total of 145 votes through that process, and I've included the top 2 projects. So the projects that got the top 2 projects that got the highest number of votes. So you can see there was an enhanced crossing at Boise Avenue, Manitou, and then a walking path at Garfield Elementary School. And West Bench. So again, engagement, you'll see these next couple of slides look pretty similar. There were a total of 7 visioning events here. We had over 200 participants. We had that online survey piece as well, and then the open house. This neighborhood has a much higher population, so you'll note that the number of votes is quite a bit higher than the last neighborhood with 328. And the top 2 projects that were identified here by the vote were a beautification effort along Settlers Canal, and that is located, the segment that this refers to is right across from Capitol High School on Goddard, and then a first phase of an orchard at the Spalding Branch site. And then our third neighborhood, West End. So again, we walked through the engagement piece. We had 10 events, close to 200 participants at those events. We had the online survey, the open house, and then we had a little over 100 total votes for projects for this neighborhood, which is substantially smaller than West Bench. The top 2 projects here were, again, an enhanced crossing on 23rd, and also a water feature at Fairview Park. Now, all 6 of these projects then for the 3 neighborhoods, those are moving forward, and they're kind of at various stages of progress. So the other thing, you know, when we looked at all of the feedback, we identified a few common themes and a few common priorities that were really across the board for all 3 neighborhoods. So we broken them into 3 categories. So we see connectivity here, and that we're talking about, you know, physical connectivity getting from point A to point B. So we saw a lot of comments and I got a lot of feedback about folks, you know, wanting more safe spaces to bike and walk, pathways, wanting safer access, wanting safer connections, being able to get across busy streets, etc. We saw comments about just general traffic calming measures, and then really wanting accessible and reliable public transportation as well. And then we see this other piece of connectivity, which is really more about our connection with our neighbor and other residents. So also many comments about, wanting some local, smaller commercial with outdoor seating, that could really serve as gathering space to get to know neighbors, to chat, to come together. And also just this idea of, a stronger sense of neighborhood pride, a stronger sense of belonging, and then having events and activities, again, where folks can come together and meet each other. And then the third thing that we saw, this third category, which is titled Healthy Communities. So this includes quite a few things. So we saw a lot of comments about kind of housing and development, as well as outdoor space. So folks really talked a lot about, wanting to see development that felt like it was including the community, including input, and, had really a lot of thought put into design, and whether it, fit with the character of the neighborhood, which I'm sure that you hear that quite frequently from folks in the neighborhood. There was also talk about, wanting affordability in housing, right? So we hear that a lot as well. An interest in kind of mixed use and mixed income developments, not just all of one or the other. And again, balancing that infill with the existing character. There was a lot of feedback regarding maintaining the mature trees, having some green space and gardens, a lot of desire for community gardens, and wanting to see that incorporated where possible in development, and just that, again, that landscaping, streetscaping. So again, the idea that, it's pleasant, it provides a pleasant experience to not just live there, but also to walk and bike and move throughout our living spaces. So again, those were kind of the common themes that carried over through all 3 neighborhoods. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Melinda.
Thanks, Nikki. So like Nikki said, we're working to implement those 6 projects that the neighborhoods identified, 2 in each. Some of them are done, which is awesome. Some of them obviously are much longer term projects where we're working with more partners and of course looking to apply for grants and various other funding opportunities to make those happen within those neighborhoods. The other question, of course, that we always get is, so what if I don't live in one of those neighborhoods that you're focusing on? So I just wanted to very briefly run through some resources that we have to support anybody in Boise or any of our surrounding communities really who wants to get more involved. And then we'll open up for some questions here in just a moment. So just very quickly, looking at planning, I think Deanna probably shared some of this with you when she chatted with you, but she's done a lot of work creating a data almanac so that our neighborhood associations can better understand who lives within their areas and work to incorporate that information into the decisions that they make. So representation on their boards, the kinds of projects that they support, the kinds of things they apply for funding to implement, and really looking at how they can make better database decisions across the board. There's also a lot of resources I'm sure you're much more familiar with about helping them testify at public hearings and understand the planning process overall. Those are all things that we've really helped to disseminate and get out there into the community so that they know how to participate. Sorry for the background noise. Under capacity building, we have our Energized Ed workshop series, and those are really designed to be kind of a deep dive into a specific topic. So it's usually a month-long series with 1 workshop each week. And the most recent one we did was all about housing. That was pretty well attended. Folks had an opportunity to learn about affordable housing, about ADUs, kind of about the different financing mechanisms that are out there, and then also about the city's strategy around grow our housing. So we offer those several times throughout the year, and those also feed nicely into the Boise Neighborhood Interactive, which is our community conference. It actually just wrapped up a couple weeks ago. We had to go virtual this year, of course. That was the first for us, but we had really great attendance even as a virtual conference. And that's really the opportunity for people to come and learn, about a whole variety of different topics, to get plugged into other people who want to be involved in their neighborhood and really make those connections. We also offer leadership development classes, and we have a whole toolkit of resources. So the photo on your screen there, each one of those is a resource that our team has developed to assist neighbors in getting more involved in their community. When we look at implementation, we have several different options for folks. The most kind of adaptable one, I guess you'd say, is our neighborhood investment program that funds capital projects. So neighborhood associations are eligible to apply each year for funding. We have a team that reviews all those and they get scored, and then the top ones move forward. So we usually have an annual allocation of $500,000 to support those kinds of projects. We see a lot of things like walking paths and playgrounds at schools, public art, kind of all different types of projects along those lines. And then we also have the ACT mini grant program. So that's Activate, Connect, and Transform. And that's smaller amounts of funding that are more flexible, that allow neighborhood associations to take on some of those smaller projects to help build community. To help people celebrate, we have our block party trailer. So that is basically the idea behind it is that it's super easy to hold a block party. Everything you need is in that trailer: tables, chairs, ice chests, yard games, all of that fun stuff. It's available for anybody to reserve for free. Obviously this year during COVID made that a little bit more challenging and much less popular, but we look forward hopefully to being able to take that back out next season. We also have guides to help people understand different placemaking ideas and kind of inspire some of that. And then helping them plan events and navigate, if it's a large scale event, what permits do you need and who do you need to talk to block off your street, kind of all of those details around things. And then finally for our associations, all sorts of different resources that we offer. If they need maps or data about their area, we help them do postcard mailings. We help them set up new associations if they're in an area that doesn't have one. And then really just that ongoing administration and work. We are here as a resource to support them. So finally, we have a Facebook page, Energize Our Neighborhoods. We have our website. You can find more project information there. We're always happy to take any questions that you might have there at our email address, energize@cityofboise.org. We're always happy to have more people get involved in any of the things that we're doing. But I'm sure you guys have some more specific questions. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing there. And if anybody has questions, we are happy to chat. Or you can throw them in the chat and we can take them that way.
Hi, Melinda.
Hi.
This is Jim Bratnover. I wanted to ask you a question here, and I guess for Nikki, because it was part of her presentation. There was a bullet in there that said balance infill with existing character / charm of older homes on and it was on the neighborhood priority slide. And my question is, okay, so Planning and Zoning Commission, in your opinion, both of you, what do you believe the implications of this are for the work we do?
Nikki, do you want to, or do you want me to?
If you have additional thoughts, go ahead and I'll chime in.
Okay, we do this all the time too.
Right. I think initially it's that challenge that people want to see something that fits in within the character of their neighborhood. They don't want something that's going to stand out and really be, that thing that you are kind of distracted by when you're driving through your neighborhood. But I think it's also helping people understand how that can look. And it doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be, a single family home that looks just like the one next to it to still kind of feel like the character of a neighborhood. So I think that's really the piece that we try to do a lot of work with neighborhoods, and especially with Deanna and our other planners, is helping to try to educate people about what that could look like. So just because it's a duplex or just because whatever they're building is maybe an apartment doesn't mean that it won't fit within the character of your neighborhood and that you can't work on kind of the design aspects of it to help it kind of still feel like it has that same continuity when you're driving down the street.
Because we often get that kind of feedback, whether from often at the podium from testimony or sometimes from the staff report, trying to say, okay, this is a duplex right in the middle of a bunch of single family homes. Or we're putting in low cost housing. One of my favorites is we're putting in low cost housing next to some not so low cost housing, and the kinds of pushback we get on those.
I think it's definitely a challenge, and that's the same kind of stuff that we hear frequently as well. How does this happen? How does this end up looking like this? And I think there's a lot of work that we can continue to be doing, educating the community and really working with them to help kind of idealize or kind of take from their idea in their mind and put it into words and pictures of what it is about something that they don't like. So what is that reaction specifically that's like, right. I know I don't like it. I don't care what it is. I just know that I don't like it, but really helping them think through what is it about it? Like, is it closer to the street and is that what you don't like? Or is it the roof slant line or the colors? And really trying to help them better understand that aspect of it.
Right, yeah, I don't like it is not an actionable statement.
That's right. We try to really try to help with that, but it's something that we hear also in the work that we do with neighborhoods all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We also, I mean, we've tried hard. Again, we went through such a big visioning process, right? And we gathered all this great feedback. So sometimes, you have all this and then it's like, okay, what do you do with it? Where does it go? So we have shared that with our planners so that when they're meeting with developers on the front end, they can share that information and say, hey, we've gone through this big process with neighbors, with residents. This is what they're looking for, to just, maybe help start that conversation or soften some of those elements that sometimes folks are, kind of immediate to be opposed to. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Just so detailed.
Thank you so much, ladies. It was really great to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah, Melinda, Nikki, thanks for presenting tonight. And if you could share those slides, I can share them with the commission afterwards.
Absolutely, I will send them your way. Thank you all for the opportunity to chat with you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thanks.
All right, so let's review the agenda real quick. I believe we'll have 4 items to hear tonight. At least that's what we're thinking. So we'll have minutes from October. Item number 1, ZOA 20-2. We were requesting deferral to December 14th. Item number 2, CVA 20-8, we are recommending denial. This is a sign variance on Capitol Boulevard. I'm not sure if there's been a few commissioners that have seen this come around before, but Design Review Committee actually provides you all a recommendation, and you are the final decision maker on that. So we'll have Caitlin Manouge from Design Review presenting tonight. Number 3 is a rezone PUD and subdivision on Shamrock. We are recommending approval, but there was neighborhood opposition to the site layout received. So we'll be hearing that one.
Hey, Saline.
Commissioner Blanchard.
Hello, hello. Hey, I know I brought this up before. I saw in the packet our sales brochure on that project. I don't know anything about it, but I just thought I'd bring that up again as it is now part of our packet.
Okay, I believe Mary's on here. It might be best to recuse just to stay, to keep everything clean. But if, Mary, there you are.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Commissioner Blanchard. I had one follow-up question for you. I know that you said you don't know anything about this particular project. I guess my follow-up is that does any of your direct coworkers have direct involvement with it? I'm just I guess maybe I'm asking to tease out a little bit of what your position is with your company. And
Sure. Well, I do sales and marketing, and so typically, sorry, a buyer would have received something like that from me, but I've never had any discussions with Wendy on this project, and I've searched my email. I don't have anything on record in my customer relationship management software or my email on this, but clearly, if our sales brochure is hanging out in the record, I don't want anybody to think that, we were doing this for some kind of gain.
Hey, Chris, I think this is Meredith. I think just for the record, maybe we can ask, do you have any financial gain to be made through this project?
I do not know.
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Stead. I believe that answers my question, and I don't think there is a necessity to have to recuse. Certainly, it's based on your comfort level, and if you prefer to, you're welcome. I don't think it's required in this circumstance.
Okay, good. Just wanted to throw that out there again. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. So number 4 is a PUD 20-35 and CVA 20-58 on State Street for 18 multifamily units and a variance to the front yard and side yard. We are recommending approval. We believe that can try to be on consent tonight. Number 5, CP 20-42 is a special exception for a salon in the R3 zone. We are recommending approval, and this is a recommendation to City Council tonight. There was no letters of opposition, so we can try for consent. Number 6, PUD 20-41 and SOS 20-29 is a PUD for a mixed-use development of a church and 2 single-family homes. And the waiver is to not build curb, gutter, and sidewalk with an associated record of survey. We did receive some opposition on that. Wait, yes. I might not have given you guys the right one. Sorry, we did receive opposition on that one. So we are going to be hearing that one tonight. And we did have people sign up in advance. Number 7, CVA 20-48 is a variance on Shields Avenue. This is Shields and Horseshoe Bend. Variances for an existing 6-foot tall fence in the front setback and the clear vision triangle. We are in part approving and in part denying the request. So we will be hearing that one tonight. And there was someone to sign up in advance for that item as well. Number 8, PUD 20-39 and CVA 20-52 And sub 20-52 is for 4 attached townhomes with a prelim and final plat on Malad. We are recommending approval. No one signed up in advance, so we can try for consent. And then number 9, PUD 20-40 and sub 20-54. The applicant is requesting deferral to December. We don't believe anyone has signed up for that. So in summary, we'll be hearing number 2, number 3, number 6, and number 7. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. We got
Thank
a
you, Celine.
10-minute break.
Great.
That's not the tea that you want. You get that? These are not the droids you're looking for? Oh, come on. Come on, people. Oh, boy. This is not the hearing.
Hello again, commissioners. Let's get started. So good evening and welcome to Boise City Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. A few things to start out for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you'll be called upon and unmuted. There is a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. If the chat function isn't available for you, you can email zoninginfo@cityofboise.org with any technical issues. Our procedures for public hearings begin with a presentation from the planning team. Then we'll go to the applicant and the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association, followed by questions from the commission. After that, we proceed to public testimony, starting with those who signed up online in advance, and then anyone else who raises their hand virtually. If you are attending through your telephone, you can type in *9 to raise your hand. Madam Chair, there is a telephone participant tonight. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. Finally, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Tonight's agenda and proceedings might have a bit of a delay as we all navigate through the technology. Please be courteous and kind and while we venture through this hybrid format. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Celine. We are citizen volunteers appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We make final decisions on conditional use permits, variances, and appeals and recommendations to the city council on subdivisions, rezones, annexations, and code or comprehensive plan amendments. Any decision made tonight may be appealed to the city council, provided that the appeal is filed within 10 days of this hearing. In order to file an appeal, you must have given written or oral testimony at tonight's meeting. So that's why it's important that you give your name and address when you testify tonight. We utilize a consent agenda. This means that if the applicant agrees with the staff report and if there is no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff, applicant, neighborhood association, and then the public testimony. Thank you all for attending tonight, and will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Blanchard,
Here.
Moore. Here. Gillespie,
Here.
Benfrock,
Here.
Bratnober,
Here.
7 present, 1 absent.
Okay, without objection from the commission, I will place the minutes from October 5th, 2020 and October 12th, 2020 onto the consent agenda. The next item for consideration is item number 4. This is PUD 20-35 and CVA 20-58 for Encompass Inc. at 5224 West State Street. It's a conditional use permit for planned residential development. Is the applicant present? Please virtually raise your hand if you, we've got him here in the chamber. And are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report? Great, let the record show that they are. And is there anybody online or in person tonight looking to testify in opposition of this item? Please virtually raise your hand if you're online. Okay, seeing none, we'll place item 4 onto the consent agenda. The next item for consideration is item number 5. This is CUP 20-42 at 2429 North Cole Road. This is a conditional use permit for a special exception for personal services, personal salon, for a salon at an existing building. Is the applicant present? Please virtually raise your hand if you are online. Great. And are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report? I think it looks like Richard is online and unmuted. Are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report? Oh, the phone was just bumped up now. It looks like the phone's muted though.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
maybe we could just come back to that at the end of your consent list. Just go on to the next one and
Sure, yeah, we can revisit that.
send out the rescue dog for Richard.
We have one other item for consideration of the consent agenda. This is item number 8, PUD 20-39 and CVA 20-52 for Rodney Evans and Partners at 3005 West Mallard Street. It's a conditional use permit for a planned residential development. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Simple, and are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report?
Yes, we are.
Okay, great. And is there anybody present tonight that would like to speak in opposition of this item tonight? I do see a hand raised. Ms. Stevens, are you here to speak in opposition of item number 8?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we are going to pull item 8 from the consent agenda. So we will hear that one.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Who said that? Commissioner Bratnover.
It looks like Mr. Wilmot has put something in chat that they are in agreement of the previous item.
Great. Thank you. Great. So heading back to item number 5, this is CUP 20-42. We see that the applicant is in agreement with this staff report. And is there anybody?
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
as Mary, and this is also for Mary. Mary, I understand that chat is not part of the record. So I'm wondering if we really want
Do we need to hear from
that person to go on, say something over the phone, or do we just want to proceed with this thing that just flashed by in chat?
I'm on the line now. This is
Okay.
Richard Crystal.
Thank you, Richard. And do we have it correct that you are in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report?
That's correct. We're in agreement.
Excellent. And is there anybody online tonight that would like to speak in opposition of item number 5 tonight? Please virtually raise your hand. I do see one hand up. I think though, was that the same? Oh, she put it down because that was for the last. Okay, so seeing nobody in opposition of item number 5, we will place item 5 onto the consent agenda, and the chair will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer.
I move to approve the following items on the consent agenda. The meeting minutes from October 5th, 2020, the meeting minutes from October 12th, 2020, and item number 4 and item number 5.
Second.
Great, we have a second from Commissioner Moore. Without any discussion, will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Finfrock,
Aye.
Bratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, we also have 2 items that are requesting deferral, where we will take them one at a time. The first item requesting deferral is item number 1. This is ZOA 20-2, Planning and Development Services, requesting a deferral to December 14th. This is a zoning ordinance amendment to the Boise City Code, Chapter 11-6-3.4. I don't think that would have been, would that be a public hearing?
Madam Chair, it is a public hearing.
Okay, so is there anybody present tonight who would not be able to return to the December 14th proposed date? Please virtually raise your hand. Okay, seeing none.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Schaefer.
I move to defer item number 1 to December 14th.
Second.
Great, we have a second from Commissioner Gillespie. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Ed,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Finfrock,
Aye.
Bratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, so the next item is item number 9. This is PUD 20-40 Mason and Associates at 12242 West Ginger Creek Drive. Also SUB 20-54 via Amora Estates subdivision, both requesting deferral to December 7th. This is a preliminary and final plat for residential subdivision and a conditional use permit for planned residential subdivision. Is there anybody present tonight that would not be able to return to testify on December 7th for item number 9? Okay, seeing none, then we will, I will take a motion to defer item number 9.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer.
I move to defer item number 9 to December 7th, 2020.
Second. Second from Commissioner Moore. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Finfrock,
Aye.
Bratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great. So moving along, we'll hear about item number 2, CVA 20-8 from Image National at 702 West Idaho Street. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This is Caitlin Manouge with the Design Review Division. This is a request for a sign variance to exceed the maximum background area in the Capitol Boulevard Special Design District overlay. And the process for these is the Design Review Committee forwards a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who makes the final decision. So the subject property is located on the northwest corner of North Capitol Boulevard and West Idaho Street. The proposed wall sign would replace the existing Key Bank wall sign that faces Idaho Street. The existing sign was approved at 60 square feet in 2010. And the proposed sign is updated to align with the company's current branding. The proposed sign area is 277 square feet, which exceeds the maximum 65 square feet allowed in the Capitol Boulevard overlay. And the key bank letters are approximately 5 feet tall. The key logo is approximately 6 feet 8 inches, and the sign length is approximately 44 feet. Compared to the existing sign, the proposed sign is in essentially the same location, but it's centered on the southernmost wall. The existing sign is lighted and the proposed sign is also proposed to be lighted, and the applicant has indicated it will not be any brighter. The proposed sign is no closer to Capitol Boulevard than the existing sign. The Capitol Boulevard Special Design District extends 1 block on either side of Capitol Boulevard. And there are additional sign criteria within that overlay to ensure signage does not detract from Capitol Boulevard District. Wall signs are limited to 15% of the wall area in size, or 65 square feet, whichever is less, and the applicant is requesting to exceed that 65 square feet and do a 277 square foot sign. So the applicant has identified their unique circumstance to be that the Tower Plaza building across Idaho Street blocks the view of their signage from Capitol Boulevard, and the sign will be primarily visible from the east and the west. So the applicant has provided some photos from different vantage points to demonstrate this. So you can see the existing sign viewed from the west when you're looking down Idaho Street, and then viewed from the southeast at 5th and Main. And you can see it's not visible from the Boise Depot, and it's not visible along that Capitol Boulevard corridor until you're approximately in front of City Hall. And the Design Review Committee has forwarded a recommendation of denial of the sign variance. They were unable to identify a hardship or exceptional circumstance that cannot be readily applied to other properties in the district. So they felt that a lack of visibility was not a hardship and was not unique to this property. They did believe that proportionally the proposed sign is appropriate, and they do prefer the proposed design to the existing sign. The applicant is also willing to include a condition that the sign not be lit between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. to reduce impacts to the residents in the condos across Idaho Street. And they also felt that all the other variants and sign criteria were met, and I can put those up if we need to look at those further. And then I can stand for any questions, and I think the applicant is available and would like to expand on how they do meet those sign criteria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Minio. So next we will hear from the applicant, and we'll start with 10 minutes. Go ahead when you're ready. Please start with your name and address.
Good evening. This is Mike with Image National Signs. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can, oh, it looks like you're muted again, but we were hearing you. Yep, there you go. Mr. Darius, are you
I'm
there?
not sure if you're able to hear me or not. If someone could acknowledge that. You are?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We can hear
Again,
you.
this is Mike Dardis with Image National Signs. We're out of Nampa, Idaho, 16265 Star Road, Nampa. I appreciate your time this evening. Yes, our request is to replace the existing stacked key bank sign that faces West Idaho Street with a larger linear sign. The new larger linear sign will be centered in the sign band area and be available for, be visible rather from the east and the west, primarily along West Idaho Street. The sign will conform to KeyBank's current logo and branding standards. Thus, it will be matching the signs that are currently installed on the pedestrian level. We are seeking relief from the application of the 65 square foot sign code requirement. It is not practical given the building location in conjunction with the surrounding structures. As noted, the Tower Plaza building is directly across West Idaho Street, and that is unique to our situation, and thus blocking the visibility of the sign. The photos that we included show the visibility limitations of the KeyBank sign band area. These photos demonstrate both our hardship and the low impact that the new sign will have on the downtown corridor. As noted, we've received some objections during our review hearing, and I would like to address those for a moment. The initial objection that there's no specific hardship, that the obstruction of visibility in this district is applicable to everyone in the district. However, the placement of the KeyBank sign facing the Tower Plaza building is solely unique to KeyBank and is not applicable to other businesses. I don't believe that it should be assumed that all the businesses in the district are facing the same challenges when it comes to signage. Furthermore, the building heights in the district do vary greatly from one side of Capitol Boulevard to the other. So everyone is in a unique situation. While other approved signs cannot be used as a basis for our approval, US Bank, Grove Hotel, Boise Center on the Grove, and even the Egyptian Theater marquee signs are all over 65 square feet. Another objection we received is that the city has discouraged larger signs in the district in order to limit visual clutter. While our sign is 277 square feet when boxed for the calculation, there's a lot of white space surrounding that sign in that area. The actual visible sign area is 147 square feet when you calculate the visible area of the sign itself. Overall, the new sign is actually 2 inches shorter than the existing sign. It's just longer. The existing sign is also mounted on the corner of the building at West Idaho and Capitol. The new sign will be positioned further down West Idaho, and thus this will reduce the sign's impact on Capitol Boulevard. Third objection is that the new larger sign would shine more light towards the residents in the condominiums across the street. The new sign will not illuminate any brighter than the existing sign. And furthermore, we're willing to regulate the sign so it is turned off between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. as a concession. Thus, based on these, we'd like to be granted an exception to install this larger linear sign so it can have better visibility from the east and the west up West Idaho Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darius. This looks like it's in the Downtown Boise Neighborhood Association. Do we have anybody present that would like to speak on behalf of the Neighborhood Association? Seeing none, we'll move on to questions from the commission.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
this is a question for the city, for Caitlin. First of all, good job. Welcome. I don't think we've seen you at the podium before, but I'm elderly and could be wrong. My real question, however, is can you talk about the different ways we're either calculating or thinking about the square footage of the sign? The applicant made a comment that it's not, I think, is it 266 feet that you think that the city calculated that at?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, so the proposed sign is 277 square feet proposed. So there's quite a few different ways we limit signage. So if you're just looking at the base zone, the C5 zone, we have a 20% max wall cap. So we take the wall area and you can't exceed 20%. But then because we're in that Capitol Boulevard Special Design District, then we limit it down to that 15% or 65 square feet maximum.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Thank you, Caitlin. I was also interested in the applicant had sort of a different number for the size of the sign, I think based just maybe on the letters in the red key and not counting the illuminated white space around it that is, from your point of view, part of the sign. Is that correct?
Commissioner Gillespie, I think they had a different number for the existing sign than we had.
Oh, okay.
I know that. And then I think for the proposed sign, we would measure a box around the key bank. So we generally just measure in boxes. So we could do a separate box for the key bank text and then a separate box for the key logo.
And when you do that, that's when you get to 277. So, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So, Mr. Applicant, could you run by me again what exactly you said about you said the actual size of the sign or the letters?
Yes, I certainly can. So with the 277 square foot calculation, it's essentially a rectangle box around the letter set, thus includes a lot of dead or void white space around the sign that actually isn't the sign itself. So if you take another look at it and you box out the individual letters and the key itself, if you were to contour the visible face area of the sign, it comes up to 147 square feet.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bratnober.
Yes, this is a question for Caitlin. So I'm wondering, the point was made that there are some other signs in the area in the same overlay that are larger. Could you comment on what those sizes are and how they happen to be there?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, Commissioner Bratnober, I know there are some larger signs that have received variances before, and I don't have a list of which signs those are. But there have been, the ones that are larger have been granted variances, and that is why they are larger. So we can't base a variance off another large sign, but that is a point that there are larger signs in the district because they have received variances.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So this is a question to the city. So do you know if those larger signs went in before the 65-foot limit was put into code or after the 65-foot limit was put into code?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, the 65 square feet, from what I could tell, was in place since 1998. So some of those signs, I think most of those signs that are larger have received variances, and that's how they're in place.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Follow up for Caitlin. And those, just to be clear, those existing signs that are larger, they are within the Capitol Boulevard overlay. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, some of the signs, so it's one block on either side of Capitol Boulevard. So within there you have like the US Bank building and the Grove Hotel. I believe the Grove Hotel did receive some variances. I believe I'm not positive on the others, but I know there are a couple others in there that have also received variances.
Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore and then Commissioner Bratnober.
So when this overlay district was put into place, was the Key Bank building already there? Or was it existing at that time?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Moore, yes, the Key Bank building was existing at that time.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Bratnober.
Thank you. Again, Caitlin, we seem to be picking on you. Sorry about that. I have a question. This is a gateway area, and particularly as you look at coming down the hill there, one of the more beautiful gateways in Boise. And if I'm not mistaken, but this is what I want to calibrate with you, the sign is readily visible as you start to come down Capitol Boulevard from the train station. Is that correct?
Commissioner Bratnober, that's correct. The sign is not visible about until you're in front of City Hall. So for most of that, the Tower Plaza building is blocking the view when you're on the Capitol Boulevard corridor. And then once you're about to City Hall, that's when you can see it.
Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Bratnober.
So, okay, so it's blocked by the tower. Now, if the sign was even expanded from that point, wouldn't it still be fairly obscured by that building?
Correct, yeah. I don't believe you'll see it any differently coming down Capitol Boulevard than the existing sign.
Thank you. So, Madam Chair?
Commissioner Bratnober.
So the assertion made by the applicant that the tower obscures their sign is correct. However, the increased square footage does not resolve the problem the applicant is highlighting. Is that correct?
Commissioner Bratnober, correct.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so then we don't have anybody signed up for this item. Do we have anybody online or in person today that would like to testify on this item? Okay, seeing none. We can go back to Mr. Darius for a rebuttal if you'd like to. I don't know if, or you were welcome to waive that since we didn't have testimony.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Yes, I would like to address one comment here in regards to the visibility of the sign. So By replacing the existing sign with a linear sign and centering it on the sign band, it is true it will not gain any more visibility along Capitol Boulevard. However, it will give or provide more visibility from the east and the west along West Idaho Street, because it will be more centered in that sign band. So from that perspective, we believe that that would be an advantage for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll close the public portion of the hearing and the item is before the commission.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bratnover.
I move we deny CVA 20-0008 as recommended by the staff report.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Second from Commissioner Schaefer. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bratnover.
while I understand what the applicant's trying to achieve here, it's not clear that this is a solution for that, although it gives some added visibility east and west, which is already there, which may or may not be improved just by centering the existing sign. I'm not sure, because we did not have an opportunity to explore that. But my feeling is that as we look at our gateways and taking care to preserve and protect those, particularly in the case where you have one of the more picturesque and famous gateways to the city, I believe that this variance should not be granted.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I'll just quickly chime in. I'm obviously in support of the motion. I agree with our colleagues in design review. I just can't quite get there with their description of the hardship that they're facing. And I think that the sign code is appropriate, for that corridor. And I think that there wasn't an error made by design review in evaluating the sign, and therefore I'm in support of the motion.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
I too am in support of the motion. Agree with design review. Again, I don't see anything that I disagree with their summary of their discussion. Also, with this building having existed when this overlay district was created, the district and that square footage was created with this height and this surface area in mind. And because of that, I can't see any hardship in their situation.
Great. Okay, so we have a motion to deny CVA 20-8. And will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Winfrock,
Aye.
Bratnover.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
So next item to hear is item number 3. This is CAR 20-12 for Dark Horse Associates at 921 North Shamrock Street. Also PUD 20-38 for Dark Horse Associates and SUB 20-45 for Lucky Lane subdivision. We'll first hear from staff. Please go ahead, Ms. Nelson. I'm sorry, I think your mic was off.
I'll start over. Madam Chair, Commissioners, before you is a conditional use permit for a residential plan development comprised of 12 single-family dwellings on 1.6 acres. A rezone of the property from R1A to R1C and a preliminary plat comprised of 12 buildable and 2 common lots are also proposed. The property is in a residential area south of Fairview Avenue between Cloverdale Road and 5 Mile Road. The applicant requests to rezone the property from R1A, which allows up to 2.1 units per acre, to R1C, which allows up to 8 units per acre. The planning team finds the R1C zone to be appropriate as a comprehensive plan designates the site as compact on the land use map within which the R1C zone is allowed. And the property to the northwest and east are also zoned R1C. Furthermore, the R1B and A1 zone properties to the south are 3 to 6 acres in size and are likely to redevelop in a manner that's similar to what is proposed for this property. The applicant does propose to construct 11 new detached single-family homes in 2 phases, in addition to the existing single-family home on the property. Each dwelling will provide 2 off-street parking spaces. Amenities will be provided with drought-tolerant landscaping, common green space, and a pedestrian and bicycle micro pathway connection to Shamrock Street. The applicant is requesting reduced minimum lot sizes, widths, and reduced interior setbacks. The planning team is supportive of these requests as all of the perimeter setbacks are being maintained, and the reductions will allow for the property, which is in an infill priority area, to be developed to its maximum density, with housing that will be affordable to individuals and families earning at or below 80% area median income. The planning team has recommended several conditions of approval as shown on this slide. These conditions will provide for sidewalk on the north side of the private drive and will ensure that the proposed pathway connection to Shamrock Avenue complies with all the requirements of code and allows for public access. The applicant has agreed to all of these conditions. For the most part, standard conditions of approval have been received from commenting agencies. The fire department did require that one of the homes, which take access from Nicole Avenue, be built in a second phase after the property to the south redevelops, which will allow the road to extend back to Shamrock Street. ACHD comments have not yet been received for the application, but conditions of approval will require that they comply with all ACHD requirements. And you have received, or we have received comments from one neighbor with proposed changes to the site layout, with particular focus on the private drive. So in conclusion, the planning team recommends approval of the application with conditions. The commission will make a final decision on the PUD and a recommendation to City Council on the rezone and subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. We'll now move to hear from the applicant. We'll start with 10 minutes. And please start with your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Wendy Klar, and I own Dark Horse. And for this project, I'll keep it real short because we agree with everything that's been recommended by the team. We got together with Bart and his team again at Leap Housing to develop a piece of property that is close to transit and accessing services that are already in place with very little effort. We wanted to create a community type of environment by keeping the road private, and but also allow for public access to a bike path to give people that are already in those adjacent neighborhoods an opportunity to hit that bike path a little easier. And we wanted to maintain some consistency with the neighborhoods that are already there, that single family feel. So we didn't want attached units or duplexes. So that's pretty much it. We're excited to bring another project to Boise that will create affordable homes for families. And we hope that you find this property as lucky as we did.
Great, thank you. It does not look like this has a neighborhood association actually, so we'll move right on to questions from the commission.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So Carla, could you pull up the map that shows the streets and all? Yeah. So which is the property that which one of these can't be built until Nicole goes through? I didn't quite get all that.
Sure. Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie. So the fire department will require either one of these 3 lots or one of the homes that take access off of this private drive to be developed at a second phase because their fire requirements require that Nicole Avenue connect back to Shamrock before you can have, the maximum is 30 homes total.
And where would that connection go?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, there is, maybe I have a better map on here somewhere.
There you go.
These 2 larger lots to the south are likely to redevelop, and somehow we don't know yet. We have not received development plans, but we expect at some point we will. And then they would connect back to Shamrock Avenue somewhere through this.
So for those of you and me, so Shamrock, it goes all the way up and down north-south through this whole picture, right? Because I'm just trying to, I can't really see. So that goes all the way through this frame to the south.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, that's correct. Although Shamrock does drop to a much smaller width.
It's like a dirt road through that bottom part.
Commissioner Gillespie, it gets to about 10 feet in width, I think, in pavement, and it's really more for bicycles in this phase. But as these properties redevelop, they would have to make the frontage improvements to allow for vehicle access.
And Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
What's just to the, assuming that up is north on this photo, what's just to the east of Shamrock down near the bottom? Is that a big row of trees or between it and those? Yeah, what is that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, there is a ditch. I'm going to blank on the name of the canal, but
there's a canal in there.
And then there are a number of trees that are lining here as well.
Okay. And there's no chance to connect, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
And I think there's a house that prevents any flow through from North Spirlea. You can't like cut that across because there's a house in that corner, right? To the go east. Yeah, there. So you can't cut through that elbow because there's a house there. I think I can't quite see it. Okay.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, that is correct.
All right.
These are developed with homes where you could not punch through a road.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bratnober.
So a question for the applicant. You describe this as affordable housing, and then some numbers are laid out in terms of, let's see, 80% affordable by those earning 80% of the area median income. Now, my figures may be out of date because we're in 2020, but the numbers got worse because of COVID, I'm sure, in terms of median incomes. But in 2019, it was around 78K. And as I pencil that out, using the standard of 30% housing costs as something that approaches affordability, come out with something close to $2,000 per month housing cost. Is that your understanding of what these units will go for, or will have in terms of either rent or mortgage, what have you?
Leap Housing is going to manage that part of it. They're very good at doing that sort of thing. They've got a project already on Shields Avenue in Boise that is taking advantage of the same types of programs that they'll deploy to build these houses on this property. So they'll rely on funding through various sources and to keep those actual costs to them down and be able to manage the houses through Leap Housing to ensure that they meet those metrics.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bratnober.
So just confirming, Ms. Clark, basically what you're saying is yes, those are the target numbers, or is it something that you just don't know because Leap is driving that part of the boat?
That's it exactly. I know that whatever the numbers are, that's what they're targeting. And in fact, I think that Bart is present tonight, and it's possible that he may be able to answer that more accurately than I can.
Madam Chair, is it okay for me to pose this question to Bart if he's here?
Who's Bart?
Oh, no.
Madam Chair, Bart is the head of Leap Housing Solutions, who is a partner on the project.
Great, thank you. That'd be great. Yes.
Yes, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I can give you just a quick answer if it's okay.
Great.
The project, we target to date 80% of area median income, just to give you a metric, would be approximately $60,000 a year for a family of 4. So it changes with the size of the family. This project specifically will be hoping to be able to do a for sale project versus a rental project through the LEAP Housing Trust. And our target is $300,000 or less. So with a median area median home price right now at well north of 4, it's in the mid 4s now for new construction. Our target price will be about $300,000 or less. That's what we feel like is sort of the upper echelon of what a family making 80% of area median income, or as HUD defines it, a low income family can afford.
Bart, and I'm sorry, can you please add your name and address for the record?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Bart Cochran. And my address is 3401 North 39th Street, Boise, Idaho, 83703.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
This is really a question for the city about what the code and the comp plan says. So nowhere in the code does it provide any numerical or any definitions of what affordable housing is in the code. The only place that talks about affordability or a diversity of housing type is the comp plan. And even there, it doesn't provide any specific affordability thresholds in terms of ratios of income. So I guess my question to the city is, your report doesn't talk about it. Is the city even comfortable inserting that kind of analysis into the record, or we need to stay with just what the comp plan says on diversity of housing type? I mean, what's your thinking on that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, we don't have anything to necessarily hold them to the 80% or the particular prices, although I trust that LEAP Housing Solutions is a partner on the project. They've submitted a letter, and that is what they've said they intend to do with the property, and it does certainly meet many of our goals in our comprehensive plan with a mix of housing and affordable housing needs. And of course, it meets some of our strategic priorities as a city. So as a planning team, we certainly looked at that aspect of it and found it a desirable part of the project.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
One question, slightly unrelated. So the 2 roads, Nichols and Shamrock, are those both classified as local roads, or are those private?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Moore, Nicole is a local road. Shamrock is actually a collector, strangely, despite how narrow it is with pavement at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Just to follow up on this question of this 80%. So it is in the first paragraph of your report, and you reference, it's in the same sentence as goal, and this is presumably from the blueprint, goal NAC 9. Does goal NAC 9 specifically mention a percentage of area median income in it, or is it a more general without a number? I can't get an internet connection, so I can't look up NAC 9. Maybe someone on the commission. Looks like Bob's got it.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, it does not reference 80% area median income, although it does certainly, I think, help to address that goal of the comprehensive plan, the fact that it will be affordable to families within that income range.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bratnober.
I appreciate Commissioner Gillespie's questions, because I think that's an important point to make, is that we are not dictating those numbers. They are offered up by the developer, and I find that to be very laudable, because they definitely put their money where their mouth is in terms of what kinds of targets that they're trying to meet. So thank you very much for that clarification.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Carl, I'm going to get into the weeds just a little bit on the site plan. And looking over your comments about the connectivity, the micro pathway, the sidewalk along the private drive. I was a little confused in some of that and how you kind of described recommending placing the sidewalk on the north side of the private drive. Can you walk us back through maybe your approach there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, we wanted to see sidewalk closest to the homes, and then also with the likely possibility that the property to the south will redevelop. There was a thought that perhaps this private lane could combine with the land to the south to provide some other connection point to make that development work better.
Okay, follow up, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
So your thought process is that perhaps if let's say if this development were to mirror itself to the south, that perhaps houses on the south side of the private drive could take access, but the sidewalk wouldn't be an encumbrance to that access. Is that generally close to what you're thinking?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, that is correct. And then also the fact just wanting to have sidewalk closest to the homes.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay, seeing no more questions. I do have one person on the sign up sheet for this, Steve Maloney. I'm sorry, we're going to check first to see if we have, oh no, this doesn't have a neighborhood association. Thanks, Commissioner Gillespie. Do we have, is Steve Malone here, or is there anybody else that would like to testify on this item tonight? Please virtually raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands and no Steve, then we will move on to a rebuttal from the applicant. Wendy, if you'd like to take 5 minutes for rebuttal, please start again with your name and address.
Wendy Clark, and I'm at 47150 Southeast 162nd Street in North Bend, Washington. I don't really have a rebuttal necessarily, except to suggest that it seems to me, and Carla and I've talked a little bit about this, it seems to me there are 10 feet here between the sidewalk and the landscape buffer that we could do something really meaningful with and make a very cool kind of bike path, pedestrian pathway down that side. That was the only thought I had, is that we've got this 5-foot landscape buffer, which, I mean, if you see, it's just more expense for the neighborhood to kind of maintain, whereas for no reason. Whereas if it were a nice kind of 10-foot swath there, we could maybe do something pretty cool, with a bike path. It wouldn't have a sidewalk close to the houses, obviously. It would be across the road, but no matter how you slice it, they've got to cross the road anyway. So I'm not sure whether it's necessarily a safety concern. And I would suggest that the likelihood that house I guess it would be to the south of our existing house is a pretty nice house. And I think that would have to get demolished in order for that road to go through there. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily I don't know if it's fair to say a good reason, but a likely occurrence for them to knock that house down and carry that road through. Just something to think about. The layout works for us. We have no objections whatsoever. It just seems a shame not to take that 10 feet and do something really cool with it along that southern boundary. That would be my only thought.
Thank you, Wendy. Great. Well, we'll close the hearing and the item is before the commission.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Finfrock.
Yes, I move to approve PUD 20-38 and recommend approval of CAR 20-12 and SUB 20-45.
Second.
Great. We have a second from Commissioner Bratnober. Is there any discussion, Commissioner Finfrock?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think this application meets the criteria for a rezone and CUP just because we see similar zones and single family homes within the surrounding R1C areas. In the commenting agencies, they've confirmed that the proposed use will not place an undue burden on the transportation system. And in late correspondence, we saw that ACHD also supported the plan. The project complies with the proposed 12 dwelling units, which is allowed in that R1C zone, and it doesn't affect or adversely affect surrounding areas. In fact, I think if you just listen to the applicant, she said that they were even going above and beyond and trying to come up with some different plans for that application that could actually enhance the area. So yeah, so I'm in support of the application tonight.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Bratnober, but you're muted.
Thank you. I don't know how you knew I said something, but you must be reading lips. Anyway, thank you very much. So I am obviously in agreement here, and I think, as Commissioner Finfrock said, this seems to hit all of the numbers and checkpoints in terms of where we are with ACHD, the density limits, etc. The lot sizes vary. I'll just leave it at that. But they are certainly something that works there. And frankly speaking, the goals that they have in terms of the affordability of this housing are very commendable. I think we need to see more developments coming in, showing this level of responsibility for sound and stable growth within the valley, while making sure that Boiseans can afford to live here. Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
I'll be also strongly supporting the motion. I obviously I really like the project. I would like to just get on the record that if I was writing the reason statement, I probably wouldn't put in the 80%, that very specific number. It's not in the comp plan anywhere. So I have a little bit of and by the way, it's something that we have no way of showing on the record is true, right? We don't know. Whereas many of the other criteria listed on page 2-39 of the comp plan under goal NAC 9, which I think, Carla, you correctly cite, it talks about, diversity of size and type and access to housing programs and non-traditional housing and, all this other stuff, but it doesn't clearly talk about this an absolute, percent level. So that's just my 2 cents as this thing moves down the road, but really like the project. And I'd like to thank both the folks from the application team.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
I also support the motion. The density is fitting within the zone. The zone for the rezone abuts a similar zone. And the street, in regard to the one comment that we did receive, the street primarily takes access off of the lesser road, which I believe is an ACHD requirement. So with the majority of those taking access off of that lower road, it makes sense in that regard as well. So I support the motion.
Great. Okay. Seeing no further discussion, we have a motion to recommend approval for CAR 20-12 and SUB 20-45 and approval of PUD 20-38. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead.
Aye.
Schaefer.
Aye.
Blanchard.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Gillespie.
Aye.
Finfrock.
Aye.
Bratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, moving on to item number 6. This is PUD 20-41 and SOS 20-29 for Leap Charities at 4400 West Taft Street, a conditional use permit for mixed use development. And we will hear first from Ms. Womack, please.
Madam Chair, Commissioners. The next item on tonight's agenda is a conditional use permit for a mixed-use development comprised of a church and 2 single-family homes on 1.07 acres at 4400 Taft Street in an R1AS single-family residential with Sycamore overlay zone. A waiver to construct curb, gutter, and sidewalk as part of a minor land division is also included. The site is bordered by mostly residential with a mix of product types, including duplexes and single-family homes. Properties to the north are within the Sycamore overlay, And the project is 2.26 miles from the State and Collister Neighborhood Activity Center. The existing church parking lot will be reconfigured. Site access will be by way of a 20-foot wide common driveway with a hammerhead turnaround. The 2 single-family homes will be on individual lots separated from the church building, and this is approved through minor land division with a condition that the PUD is approved prior to the director signing the Mylar. The PUD includes reduced lot sizes of 7,241 square feet and reduced lot widths of 66 feet rather than the required 20,000 square feet and 100-foot wide lot widths of the R1A zone. Also included are reduced setbacks for the church parking interior to the development in front of the single-family home's shared driveway. The planning team is in support of these requests as they're interior to the development and create more usable building envelopes without adversely impacting the adjacent properties. It's important to note the project is within the Sycamore Overlay District. The purpose of this district is to preserve and encourage land use development that is consistent with the semi-rural agricultural character and lifestyle of the Sycamore neighborhoods, while promoting the public health, safety, and general welfare of the present and future residents of the neighborhood in Boise City. Lots fronting onto Taft Street are exempt from the setback standards of the overlay. Minimum lot size requirements of the overlay are only applicable in determining the allowed agricultural uses on the property. In addition to the dimensional waivers requested, the applicant has also requested to waive the improvements the required improvements to install curb, gutter, and sidewalk along the 185 feet of frontage along Taft Street. The planning team is in support of this request as the property has an existing open air irrigation ditch, 2 large trees, and an ADA accessible ramp. The closest street improvements on this side of Taft are approximately 520 feet to the east and 312 feet to the west. A more holistic approach for coordinated street improvements along this section of the street is required. In conclusion, with the recommended conditions of approval, the project complies with the standards of approval, and as such, we're recommending approval of the PUD and waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Womack. We'll now move on to the applicant, which I think is Bart. Please start again with your name and address. We'll start with 10 minutes.
Yeah, you bet. Is it okay if I share a presentation as well?
Yes.
Okay, it's Bart Cochran. Address is 3401 North 39th Street, Boise, Idaho 83703. And I'm just gonna see if this pulls up here. Does that show on your end?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, great. You said 10 minutes?
Yes, please.
Okay. And as a part of our application team, I'm going to ask if it's okay, Joe Bankard to join as well. This is a unique partnership between the LEAP and the church.
Great.
I'll try to save a couple minutes right at the tail end here. But a good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thanks for your consideration of PUD 2041 and SOS 2029. Like I've been introduced before, I'm Bart Cochran. I'm the founder and executive director of the applicant LEAP Charities, Inc. We also go by LEAP Housing Solutions as our doing business as. So if you see that elsewhere in the application. LEAP's a nonprofit organization focused on the creation and preservation of housing for low-income households in the Treasure Valley. My background's as a for-profit real estate practitioner turned social entrepreneur after confronting too many people unable to access secure, safe housing. We're excited to bring to you today this application for the Taft Street Homes project in partnership with the Collister United Methodist Church community. This unique partnership will bring 2 detached single-family homes available for low-income families to a Boise infill location with superior proximity to transportation, services, and jobs. All 3 things very important to low-income families. LEAP sees itself as a really, really long-term neighbor. So it's important that a project looks like this is a good fit in the neighborhood. So I personally live both in the Collister neighborhood and in the Sycamore overlay, very near the site, just around the corner. In fact, through careful consideration and feedback, we decided to move this project forward under the current very low density of R1A, which is just 2 units per acre, despite being adjacent to a higher density use. Therefore, a zoning change is not being requested with this application, so no zone change. We believe this project represents the spirit of the neighborhood through the inclusion of shade and fruit trees, raised garden beds, on-site parking, low water, and patios. And the project itself, as designed, meets density, height, setbacks, parking, shared driveway requirements, and fire compliance. This project will add 2 high-quality 3 to 4 bedroom homes with garages and rented affordably. In addition to this application being designed to meet the existing requirements under the R1A zone, LEAP invested a significant amount of time in the community during the process. So partnering with the community is like in our DNA. So better yet, it's in our name. So LEAP stands for Love, Empowerment, and Partnership. I wanted to provide just a brief timeline. Here's a quick little timeline of our efforts in the community. So first, we sent letters out to the neighbors of the surrounding site with an invitation to the neighborhood meeting. We, LEAP, along with some folks from the church, visited neighbors in person. We socially distanced and wore masks, of course, to get feedback and make sure that the letters were received. Overall, we got very positive feedback from neighbors. We hosted a neighborhood meeting over Zoom. We answered some really great questions from neighbors, some things we hadn't even thought about, and we integrated that feedback into our ultimate design. And then we've received to date 23 letters of support for this project. All of those letters have been provided in our correspondence to the commission, but those letters are from neighbors and also church congregants who we believe are stakeholders in this project, as it is the church that they attend. So it's that feedback from personal meetings, neighborhood meeting, the letters of support, and the city of Boise that gave us the encouragement to go ahead and put forward this application. And so I'm certain that we're all aware that Boise has an affordable housing challenge on its hands. I think we all know that already. Making up 1/3 of households in Boise, low-income families are struggling to access housing in a rapidly appreciating market, and COVID-19 has only compounded that issue. We know we're in good company, and we applaud the city and as it continues to make strides to make Boise, as the P&Z vision states, I saw in the front of the agenda, creating a city for everyone. In addition to this project being compatible with existing zoning, this project is consistent with the Grow Our Housing initiative in the city of Boise, because it promotes the creation of, quoting from the initiative, rental housing affordable to individuals and families earning at or below 80% of area median income, and as a result, promoting a variety of choices in housing options. In addition to this project has also been awarded funding from the city of Boise Housing and Community Development under the CDBG program, because it promotes initiatives of supporting livability from housing choice to neighborhood vitality, and it's serving families making 80% of area median income or less, which is required under the CDBG program. One of the highlighting factors brought to our attention by Housing and Community Development is that in addition to the fact that the project adds new units of affordable housing, it's a unique partnership. And if we can inspire other church communities or landowners to do the same, we can really make a dent in the overall community need. We think this project's a win for everyone. It complies by meeting the existing zoning requirements. It provides essential housing to meet this overwhelming need that's been compounded by COVID-19. It inspires churches and other non-traditional partners to be part of the solution. It provides dignifying housing for low-income families that is proximate to essential services, and it's local. This is like the true ground-up solution. The church, a 100-year-old neighbor, got the ball rolling by asking a question: how can they love their neighbors? And the answer they came up with was that housing was how they could do it. And so in summary, we offer this Taft Homes project up for consideration. A project that meets the city's requirements, has been provided over 23 letters of support from neighbors and congregants, is a recipient of City of Boise funding, It's consistent with 6 goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. It advances the vision to create a city for everyone. And finally, it's supported by city staff. So I thank you today for your consideration of these applications on behalf of the church, LEAP, and the future residents of these homes. So we urge you to approve the request. With that, hopefully I've saved a couple of minutes here. I want to yield the rest of my time to Joe Bankard just to share a little bit about the inspiration behind this project and this unique partnership.
Thanks, Bart. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please start with your name and address.
My name's Joseph Bankard, Bankard. I live at 4058 North Hawthorne Way, Boise, Idaho 83703. And for those that know that area, I live in the Sycamore Overlay. I live very close to the church. I've been the pastor for about 5 years. The church has been a United Methodist Church since 1913. George Collister donated the land. When I took over, we had this lot behind our parking lot that is filled with goat heads and weeds. And I thought, what a great asset. What can we do with it? So the church got working, the church leadership thinking through, we thought about parking. Do we need that? We talked about a community garden. We talked about maybe making it into a park that we could use for potlucks and things, put a shaded structure and some grass. We actually had a landscape architect draw plans. We paid for those and got an estimate. We thought through a lot of issues. It took us a couple of years. And then we began recognizing how much of a need affordable housing is and how rents are going up and property taxes are going up and it's hard to afford to live in Boise anymore. And we thought this was a much greater need than any of the other things we were thinking of doing with that lot. But I don't want to be a property manager and I don't know how to build houses. So we immediately started looking for partners and I met with Bart and we talked with LEAP and just felt like this was the best option. We fell in love with this project. Our church congregation took a vote. I don't know if any of you guys attend churches, but it's hard to get approval for just about anything, like change the paint color. And we had almost unanimous support to use this lot for housing. The church is behind it. We really feel like it meets an incredible community need. And the fact that we don't have to be the property managers or the developers was music to my ears. So partnering with LEAP has been a great opportunity for us. And so that's sort of how this came about. A lot of time, a lot of thought, and a lot of prayer. So I hope that you'll approve our application and we can move this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bankard. Great. So we'll next move on to see if we have anybody present from the Northwest Neighborhood Association who would like to speak on this project as a representative of the neighborhood.
Madam Chair, I believe it's Collister.
Looking at the
We're on number 6.
I skipped ahead. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Collister neighborhood, anybody present that would like to speak on behalf of the neighborhood tonight? Okay. Oh, we do have a hand. Oh, I'm looking for the designated neighborhood representative for the neighborhood association at this point. So somebody that is with the Collister Neighborhood Association. It looks like we've whittled it down to one hand. Please go ahead. Please start with your name and address, and you'll also have up to 10 minutes.
I'm sorry, this is Rin Corbett. I had registered to submit comments. I'm not affiliated with the neighborhood group that you're referring to.
Okay, thank you. We'll get to that in a moment. So seeing nobody then from the neighborhood, we will move on to questions from the commission for staff or the applicant.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
I have one question. So there's a little bit of difference between the ACHD report and the staff report in terms of the variance on that curb gutter sidewalk. How does that work? Do we kind of make the recommendation that they go work with ACHD or?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, you might recall a few maybe a year or so ago, we had a similar waiver request on Ormond Street where the commission felt they supported the waiver request and ACHD did not. It was determined that the city is the land use authority on those requirements, and the applicant would continue their process with ACHD. As noted in the report, the applicant does intend to appeal the ACHD decision to their commission to resolve the right way to work that forward. There are plans in the 5-year work plan for this section of Taft, so they could consider maybe like a deposit into those funds.
Right. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Ratneber.
following up to Commissioner Moore's question, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit slower than everybody else here, so I'm having a little trouble. So in terms of ACHD saying one thing, staff saying the other, and then you got the Planning and Zoning Commission in between, who has the final say here?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the requirements are triggered by the minor land division section of code of the zoning code. It requires those improvements, and as the land use authority, we have the power to determine if they meet the requirements for a waiver or if we continue to require those improvements.
Okay, so in effect, it's the city who has the decision-making authority.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, so now we will move to the public testimony. If you are here to testify on this item, please virtually raise your hand and we'll just start working our way down the list. We can okay, so let's start with Charlie Andre and then Michael Whittree. Please start with your name and address and you'll have 3 minutes. Charlie, please go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Andre. I live at 4405 West Catalpa Drive in Boise, Idaho 83703. I'm a senior at Boise High School, and I've had more than 3 years of experience volunteering in communities that rely on affordable housing. We have a great opportunity with this project to create a built-in community for people who need support the most. I've seen firsthand how significant a role community plays in people's lives, and I'm really excited about this project. It gets me excited about the future of Boise, a more kind, inclusive future. Affordable housing in the Collister neighborhood is needed and wanted to grow our area into a more loving, supportive community. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Next, we'll hear from Michael. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Michael Whittree, W-I-T-R-Y. Address is 3749 South Geckler, number 70. I'm a member of the Collister UMC Board of Directors. It is an essential element of our religious faith that when we have more than we need, we share it with the community. We have more land than we need. It's not being used, and our church board of directors and our leadership team believes that the best way for us to share this land with the community is to construct these 2 affordable housing units. We chose this small scale project because we believe that it's appropriate for the amount of land that we have and that it fits in well with the Collister community. The vast majority of our members live in the Collister community, and they want this project to be a successful project. Because so many of us are in Collister, we'll be in an unusually good position to monitor this developing project and ensure that it's meeting the needs of our community. Most of our members live there and will be passing by this house all the time. Virtually all of us will be there at least once a week. And because this because these two buildings will be right next to our church building, we are extremely committed to ensuring that the people who will be living here will be good neighbors for everyone who lives in Collister. In conclusion, I urge you to approve this this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitry. Next, we'll move to, it's on my screen as M. Seha, and then Joshua and Kim Crone. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, M. Seha.
Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Esther Seha. I'm not sure why it's saying M. Seha. So I reside at 3901 North Cambria Way, Boise 83703. I actually sit on the Collister Neighborhood Association Board. However, this item was not an item of discussion. So I apologize that the neighborhood association did not provide comment, but I am providing comment as a resident, a longtime resident of the Collister neighborhood. I have lived in the neighborhood for over 16 years. And as someone who is an avid supporter of affordable housing across our city, I am thrilled to hear about this proposal. I am in support of the proposal. I do just have one comment regarding curb, gutter, and sidewalks. As someone who runs throughout the neighborhood, Taft is in need of a sidewalk from Sycamore east to 36th Street. And I'm hoping that in coming years, that will become a reality, in large part just for safety for kids who walk that street to and from school. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you, Esther. So next, oh, wait, it just went away. I see you though. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes for Kim and Josh. And if there's two of you, you can go one at a time with name and address, and then your 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Kim, and this is my husband Josh, and we live at 4391 West Plum Street. We're in the duplex directly across the street from the church. I was born and raised in Boise and had always planned on, I wanted to raise a family here. In 2012, I was able to rent a 1-bedroom apartment downtown for like $399 a month. And now where we're at, it's a 2-bedroom duplex for $1,100. I know that you guys are all familiar with those numbers jumping. In 2016, we pre-qualified for a loan and put an offer in on a house, and were immediately outbid by a bunch of people. And then just like immediately after that, we were priced out of the housing market and just had no hope of getting into a house. My family has lived in this area of town for 25 years, and yeah, we've just always wanted to stay in this area. And I know people tend to be hesitant about low income housing coming into their neighborhoods, but just a few years ago, I feel like we would not have been even considered low income. It's a very wide range of numbers now. And a lot of low income, what's considered low income now, people with really good credit and rental history and employment history, just trying to find an affordable place to live. So yeah, we're just really grateful that the city so far has supported LEAP in the projects that they have done, because we think that it could just be so helpful for so many families. We have 2 kids and a 3rd one on the way. So just being able to get into a house would just be amazing. So
thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, the names are going away when the video starts. So sir and ma'am in the screen, you guys are up next. Please start with your name. Ann and Sean. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. You can take the time individually also if you'd like to.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak. My name is Sean.
I live at Sean Corbet. I live at 3122 North Sycamore Drive. And Ann and I are butted up right next to the one house on the west side. So they will be our neighbors. And we have a 30-foot setback. I noticed they're going to only have a 10-foot setback from our property line. And you know, I've listened to all the shares. The Pastor Joe's a great guy. I know him, and Bart. I have talked with him a lot, and they're wonderful neighbors. They're a fantastic idea of trying to help people, and coming from a position of love and giving, and it's a wonderful idea. The problem, what I see the problem is that. Although it's a wonderful thought, it's not part of the Sycamore, the Collister neighborhood. It's not in keeping with Dr. Collister wanted when he donated all this land. And the city, when they annexed us, they promised to keep it, you know, the way it is, large lots, low density. So yes, there's a huge problem for low income housing stuff, but that wasn't the deal when Boise annexed us to keep this what it is. And I feel like just like that other property where they had the 12 units, I think another place, yes, the Methodist Church has this land. They want to use it. They want to give it away. That's wonderful. But I would encourage them to find a different use. I know they prayed for years. They all talked and stuff. And as a congregation, they have a right to want to do something, but to me, it does not fit with the Sycamore overlay. And the other thing is, I was trying to understand, there's a rectory church, and they're using the rectory as a commercial business, actually, by counseling there. So if you count the rectory as a house, which it really is, how can you have two more houses put on there for a total of 3 when we're only allowed 2 houses? And actually, we're only allowed a house and a granny flat. So now you're having 3 full-size houses on a property that's zoned for 1 house and a granny flat. The other problem is going to be the parking. And you know, I mean, to be honest, to have 2 more families there, the impact on us noise-wise is obvious. You know, that 30-foot setback area, we've used that to build a little, you know, that's our little pond meditation water feature area. And we're gonna time.
Yes, thank you, sir. That's the end of your 3
Okay,
minutes.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ann.
Oh, well, we just were using.
I'm sorry,
my
Ann, please start with your
Park. I
Ann,
live at.
sorry.
Oh,
Please
what?
start with your name and address.
Okay, Ann Ruark. I live at 3122 North Sycamore Drive. What he was going to say is we have a little meditative area there next to we have a canal there right next to the fence, and they'll be 10 feet on the other side of their house would start. So it will, yes, it would impact us from the noise. We were worried about the parking. It's a very busy church every day of the week because it has a counseling center. They have 2 congregations on Sunday. There's one in the morning, and then a refugee one later in the afternoon. So it's nonstop noise and traffic. And even during the week, they have, of course, AA meetings and Al-Anon, whatever. It's a busy place. So somebody's going to be living right there where all the cars are back and forth. We already have put up, I mean, we knew that was happening when we moved in, the noise, but we did not ever think that anybody would want to live back there. Also, we were a little worried about they are cutting back and only have a 35 or so parking places. I don't really know if that's enough for that church. I'm sure there's some way to figure it out, but it seems like that's not enough parking either. So that,
There's no parking on Taft, so they.
right, there's no parking on Taft. If they might park around the corner in front of our houses, I'm just not sure how that's all going to work. And I'm all for affordable housing too. I just think this is really not a well thought out plan.
Maybe one house in a orchard,
I'm sorry, we've got to keep the testimony
Okay.
for in each 3 minutes clean for the record
Okay, that's
from each person. Okay, thank you so much. Next, we'll hear from Mark Field, and please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks. My name is Mark Field. My wife and my family and I have lived at 3112 North Sycamore Drive in Boise for 26 years. I'm an Idaho native. The back of our property borders the parking lot of the Collister United Methodist Church at 4400 Taft Street. We have a legal easement with the church that was signed in 1989, and it's recorded on the west, what the ACHD site-specific conditions of approval describe as 50 feet west of Silver Street. The ACHD requires our driveway to be closed as a condition of approval of this project. The sidewalks, curbs, gutters, however, are nowhere mentioned.
No, the city planning.
The city planning department has granted a waiver to not have to put in sidewalks, curbs, gutters, or to cover the ditch, which exists all the way across the property, except the driveway that exists for the church and our easement. So nowhere in the analysis of this recommendation of approval by city planning and zoning does it mention our legal ingress and ingress and egress to the property. The fact is that the only possible vehicle access for our ADU, where my elderly mother-in-law lives and my shop is through that easement. So we will of course defend it legally if we have to, if that should become necessary. Beyond our particular situation, we want to acknowledge just the church's noble intent. And I will share that I've been a builder for 40 years and have helped build multiple Habitat for Humanity homes and done supervision on them as well. But I think, however, let's not let our good wishes put blinders on the original intention of the Sycamore Plan, which is an increasingly rare mix of allowable urban architecture, agriculture, and animal husbandry. So when you look at the two maps, the current zoning map of Boise is R1AS. Now, when you look at the legend of land use, the planning and zoning wants to change that along Taft from R1AS to R1C. Now, R1CS, they only want to allow 4 instead of 8 units along Taft. Now, it's funny because twice in the past, the city of Boise has denied the exact same zone change. Now all of a sudden, for some reason, we get to this date, they want to do it again. So I think when the neighborhood was annexed into the Boise City in 1974, it was with the provision that it remain R1A. This was intended to protect the preservation of large lots and the character of the Sycamore neighborhood. The Collister United Methodist Church is within the Sycamore Plan, and the overlay is zoned R1.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of the 3 minutes. We'll next move to Ryan Corbell and then Charlie Andre, who has somebody else to speak. And then lastly, it looks like Lark Corbell. Right, and please start with your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Rin Corbet. I am part owner of the property at 3122 North Sycamore. Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. This property joins the northwest corner of the Collister Methodist Church property. My brother, from whom you just heard, Sean, resides here. Our mother, until last spring, and I visit often and plan to retire and move here to this property. I deeply respect the desire of the church members to find ways to use their resources to address homelessness. I chair the homeless shelter project that my own fellowship maintains each winter. Yet I strongly request that this project be rejected for the following reasons. 1, while the proposal claims that the properties in the neighborhood will not be adversely affected, I believe that the infill of 2 3-bedroom homes, adding parking for nominally 2 vehicles each, but probably 3, will overtake the existing church parking lot, which supports the church and the regular services that are housed there. While the proposal claims that the 34 parking spaces required for a 150-seat church will be improved due to reconfiguration, I believe this reconfiguration will result in tighter spaces, less turnaround, reduced setbacks, and more congestion, all of which will result in vehicles being forced to park on their neighborhood streets. Because Taft is not wide enough with a narrow roadway, the trees, the irrigation canal, and perhaps the sidewalk that an earlier commenter requested, this means that parking will move to Sycamore, Hawthorne, North Silver, and West Plum Streets. Number 2, the addition of 2 homes to the 1-acre property, which already houses 2 structures, is incompatible with the original Sycamore plan. Yes, there is underutilized space currently. Can it not be used in a manner more consistent with the Sycamore overlay and the original intent when the land was annexed by the city, with the requirement that it remain R1A and sustain agricultural properties? And I heard this evening, I heard the commenters Joseph Bankert or Bart Cochran mentioned that they had looked at ways to perhaps have a community garden. I would strongly encourage that be considered again. This is an agricultural neighborhood. Number 3, my neighbors to the south, Mark Field, from whom you just heard, have an easement for ingress and egress along the church property. This proposal requires that their legally granted easement be removed, something which should not be allowed to happen. It's interesting, or it's curious how this proposal got this far without that being considered. So in conclusion, thank you for listening. I hope you take my comments into consideration in voting to reject this plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Corbet. Next, we'll hear from Charlie Andre and the other person she's representing. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hey, my name is Chris Johnson. I live at 4319 West Catalpa in Boise, 83703. My wife and I have lived in this neighborhood for about 13 years. We are in the overlay itself. We support this project with 7 of my neighbors, 100%. The Taft Home Project will be part of the beautiful story that Boise is writing to provide affordable homes in our community. 100% behind it. I look forward to you passing this quest.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next, and I think lastly, we'll hear from Ms. Corbet. Please start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Lark Corbet. I'm here because I am also part owner of 3122 North Sycamore. We directly border the proposed new homes. And I want to say I also, the reason I'm part owner is that several siblings own that property, and our plan is to be able to age in place over time when we get to that place to have an affordable group home. So we plan to be long-term good neighbors for a long time there. We support the church. We love the energetic music and the worship and the intent, and certainly know how difficult affordable housing is, and support Boise City's overall plans. My question is whether this plan as it is today cannot be improved for 2 major reasons. Yes, the traffic, all that is there. But fundamentally, this is a rare, unique, agriculturally urban zoned area. There are many places for high density. We know we need 14 units per acre, right? But this, where you have the opportunity to have animal husbandry and agriculture in an urban setting, is rare. And if you let this encroach, then it's just going to be the next one and the next one. The church, I love it, right? Affordable housing, that's what we're all about. But you cannot just take an easement from our neighbors to the south. Just take it like that. I don't understand that. And also, the church members have asked our neighbors to the south if they could have weddings in their garden, and our neighbors have kindly agreed. I would like to know, in terms of creative usage, why the church can't have their own beautiful space that could be used by the community, including their own congregants, for weddings and other community gatherings, including, I heard earlier that you had considered a garden. The garden that our neighbors produce, they feed all of us all summer long. You know, I don't think you can discount the hunger needs and say that 2 more homes could really offset what you're taking away from your good neighbors, what you're taking away from the agriculture and animal husbandry, which it was zoned for originally, and that you cannot find another good use that serves the interests and the hearts of your community, perhaps even better than this one. I think there are more creative ways to address this property without walking into the bee's nest that you might, you know, we want to support bees, but we want them all happy and living together in this agriculture area. So I would ask you to defer until the legal questions of access have even been acknowledged or considered. I think it was an oversight. And I would ask the church congregants to listen deeply with their hearts and allow us to jointly come up with something that might work for everybody involved. Thank you so much for your public service and for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Corbet. So this is the last call for anybody that would like to testify on this item tonight. Please virtually raise your hand if you have not participated already and would like to. Seeing none, we will move on to rebuttal from the applicant, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. I realized I didn't have my video on earlier, so now you can see me. Just from a responsive perspective, I think it's just, I just want to be clear that that this project, as stated in the staff report, does meet the development code and the comprehensive plan. So I know there's a lot of talk about it not fitting. It meets the zoning requirements. And just to be clear too, there's some mention of a zone change, and that maybe the city is trying to pull a fast one on the neighbors or something like that. There is no, we're not requesting a zone change. This entire application exists under the R1A zone. So I just want to be clear about that. Make sure that it's crystal clear. Just a couple just kind of clarifying items. Obviously, parking is something that the city would have considered. In the staff report, it kind of spells that out. We're providing 2 off-street parking spots in garages for each of those homes, and reconfiguring the parking lot to meet all the city parking requirements. So that, and as far as I'm concerned, is a non-issue. When the church has had, if there was ever a need for any overflow, they've used, there's a Good Samaritan overflow parking lot, kitty corner from the church as well. They have a relationship and have had a pretty active parking sharing relationship there. But a standalone, the site is able to hold all parking that's necessary or required into the city. I want to address the easement question. Just to be clear, we have absolutely no interest in removing or eliminating anyone's access. So I think that's an ACHD conversation probably. I have asked for a copy of this easement that Mark Fields had mentioned that exists, and I did just get a copy of it late last week, and I have forwarded it on to ACHD to incorporate into their review of the application. So, but just to be clear, we don't have any interest, and we will definitely work with the neighbors to make sure that they can maintain that access easement. So just want to be clear about that. And the additional cars, I know that was one of the questions. ACHD obviously looked at that and wasn't concerned about the additional cars, the additional traffic created by 2 homes. And then I know that sometimes it's really more impactful when you hear oral testimony because you get to hear some emotion and some reflection. I'm super thankful for everybody, for the neighbors that have come out and kind of exercise that community muscle, both for and even those that are against. But I want to also just make sure to point out that although they didn't get heard tonight, we did provide 23 letters of support from the neighborhood and from the church. A couple, with just my remaining time, I just wanted to add just a couple of just snippets from those letters because I think they're pertinent to this conversation. But so many neighbors have shared with us. Here's a neighbor on Catalpa, says almost 30, she's lived here for 30 years. She's heard the arguments for and against. And there's been lots of promises of change that have been met with disappointment, but she says the Taft Homes project appears designed to help at least 2 families. We have to start somewhere. Why not in my neighborhood? I say go for it, she says. And that's a real true yes in my backyard attitude of yeah, if we're going to do this, why not do it in our backyard? I live in the neighborhood as well, and I share that sentiment. I did want to just point out, just from a feedback perspective, I mentioned a lot about our community engagement activities. We did actively knock on doors and reach out to the community. It wasn't until just recently that this group on Sycamore, I think it's, as you can tell, it's 2 addresses, a lot of sibling kind of co-ownership together. It wasn't only until just about a week ago that we were able to get, or that they made contact with us. They did not attend the neighborhood meeting, and did not participate in any of the early planning. And so we do value collaboration, and that was our intent by knocking on doors, to make sure that the neighborhood was included. And it wasn't only until just this last week that these conversations have started. But we have talked to most of the group, and spent a significant amount of time just trying to make sure that everyone understands what's going on, and find out if there's any way that we can work together better. And the easement would be a good case in point of that. So we'll do everything we can to keep that easement in place.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. So this closes the public portion of the hearing, and the item is now before the commission.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
I move that we approve PUD 20-41 and SOS 20-29 with all the terms and conditions in the staff report.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So I agree with both the city and the applicant that there is no zoning change here. And so then from a point of view of the zone, the question is, do these 2 additional houses comply with the R1AS zone? And I believe they do, for the reasons stated in the staff report. I would also point out that according to the staff report, all the exterior setbacks continue to be met for the zone. So I don't see a reason to deny based on the setback issue. I think with respect to parking, the proposal meets the city's parking standards. Whatever else happens when the church overflows, this is a common problem before the commission. The reality is they meet their parking. If people overflow and park on a public street, that's a public street. Like, we can't, as long as the requirements are met, they're met. And we also did hear that there's some other parking arrangement, but frankly, I don't really need that to reach my judgment. With respect to the easement, I'm looking very, very carefully at the photo, the Google Earth photo. I don't see the problem. We have testimony from the applicant, who's presumably a party to the easement, that they're not going to stand in the way of it. And finally, as we all know, serving on this commission, private easements and their adjudication are not typically before us. I mean, we can consider them. And in this case, my consideration is, I think it's all going to work out fine, because just looking at the photo and looking at all the houses and all their access points, I just don't see it. So for all those reasons, I support project 6.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bratnover.
Yes, I'd like to concur with Commissioners Gillespie and Blanchard. I think, when you look at this, it does meet the code requirements, certainly from a density perspective as spelled out in 11-06-01.5. And it also provides much needed housing. I again applaud LEAP for their partnership, their willingness to go out into the community to spend the time meeting with neighbors to try to not only present what they're doing, but also modify it as they get into these sorts of situations. I recognize that sometimes folks are challenged by the fact that rental housing is going in. But let's face it, with our housing crunch in Boise, so many people from so many income levels and walks of life need to take this route until we address these housing problems and solve them. So I will be supporting the motion as specified.
Great.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Blanchard and then Commissioner Schaefer.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I wanted just say thanks to Bart and to Pastor Bankard. This, in case you're not steeped in the planning terminology, this is what is called the YIGBY movement, which is yes in God's backyard. And I hope that we see a lot more of this with churches stepping forward. There is a ton of excess church land out there, and I think it is admirable that Pastor Bankard stepped forward and said, hey, we got to do something with this, and that he got led to housing. So again, I think the staff report covered all the legal issues in here for us to support this project, but I just wanted to say, I hope we see a lot more of this kind of thing.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Madam Chair, yeah, just real quick. I'm strongly in support of the motion. I think it's a great partnership and a great project. And I just wanted to speak real quickly to some of the testimony regarding the Sycamore overlay and the desire for this neighborhood to remain sort of an historically ag use area. And I agree with that sentiment. I just wanted to point out, though, that in this case, these houses are being proposed on a vacant lot. We're not removing productive ag land in order to put in these infill houses. This is just, quote unquote, excess land or a vacant lot. So I just wanted to be very clear that there's no negative impact to the agricultural use of the neighborhood. And adding 2 houses on a vacant lot, I think, does not conflict with the Sycamore overlay and the plans for this neighborhood.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
And just to tag on to that as well, and in the staff report, I do want to point out the lot, in regards to the lot sizes, and there's some comments on how they were smaller, but per the staff report, the lots fronting Taft Street are exempt from both setback requirements. And because this isn't an agricultural use, they're not used, the sizes aren't determined by that. They're using those kind of lot sizes to determine their agricultural dimensioning, and not necessarily the lot sizes for housing as well. So it makes sense to me, and I'm in support of the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve PUD 20-41 and SOS 20-29 by Commissioner Gillespie and a second by Commissioner Blanchard. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Ned,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Infrock,
Aye.
Ratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great. Before we move on to item 7, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back at about 7:58.
Madam Chair, before we break, I failed to mention that this is Nicolette's last night with us. So that was her swan song. And her last night with us, she's moving to the East Coast. Today is her last day. She waited till today to be her last day. So
Thank you,
Nicolette.
Thank you, Nicolette. You've been a pleasure. Best of luck to you.
Give him an opportunity to wander, and he's gonna wander.
Okay, thank you and welcome back. We are on to our last item, which is item number 7. This is CVA 20-48 for Barclay Properties at 10501 West Shields Avenue. And it's a variance for an existing 6-foot tall fence in the front setback. And we'll start with staff.
Madam Chairman,
Madam Chair.
just quick correction, we're going to have to hear 8 too. So if you're here for item 8, you're
Blowing
still on.
tonight.
And
Yes.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'd just like to, while we bid one planner adieu, welcome again Crystal Rain. I believe this is her first presentation tonight before you all. So go easy, go hard, whatever you'd like to do.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'm going to just start again. Welcome back. We're moving on to item 7. This is CVA 20-48 for Barclay Properties. We'll start with staff. Please go ahead, Ms. Rain.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The item before you is a variance to exceed the max fence height for an existing fence in the front setback and clear vision triangle of a property located at 10501 West Shields Ave in an R1C zone. The site contains a single-family house and has an existing 6-foot tall chain link fence along the entire perimeter of the property, including in the front setback. The development code states that for residential zones, solid fences within the front setback may be built to 3 feet, open vision fences within the front setback may be built to 4 feet, and fences at 6 feet must be built outside the front setback. These requirements are mainly intended to maintain clear sight and vision for vehicles and pedestrian safety, as well as for promoting a unified streetscape. The west property line sits 50 feet back from the right-of-way parallel to Horseshoe Bend Road, a very busy collector. Due to the distance between the property line and the right-of-way, the fence does not encroach into any clear vision triangles, nor does it visually detract from the frontage along Horseshoe Bend. Further, while Shields Ave has a typical residential speed limit of 20 miles per hour, Horseshoe Bend Road has a speed limit of 40. The planning team finds that there is an exceptional circumstance with the property due to proximity to a road with high volumes of fast-moving traffic. Further, the property sits at the edge of a residential neighborhood directly adjacent to a large commercial area. Maintaining the fence along the west property line will not cause any public safety issues and will help to limit the impacts of the roadway and contribute to a sense of security for the owners. The exceptional circumstance does not apply to the retention of the 6-foot fence in the rest of the front setback. Buffering is not required as Shields Ave is a quiet local street. Further, the fence may negatively impact surrounding properties as it encroaches into the clear vision triangles where the property takes access. With vehicles from Horseshoe Bend transitioning from a much higher speed, it's imperative to keep clear visibility for vehicles exiting the property. Additionally, the parcel is located adjacent to a large grocery store and associated pedestrian infrastructure. Maintaining that clear vision triangle for cyclists and pedestrians is crucial to promoting safety and connectivity for the neighborhood as supported by Blueprint Boise. In conclusion, the applicant's request to maintain a 6-foot tall fence along the west property line meets the approval criteria for a variance. There's an exceptional circumstance associated with the high traffic volumes of Horseshoe Bend Road and the higher impact uses adjacent to the property. As such, the planning team recommends approval of the application request to maintain the 6-foot tall fence along the west property line. The planning team finds there to be no hardship or exceptional circumstance to warrant the maintenance of the 6-foot tall fence within the remainder of this front setback. Therefore, the request does not meet the approval criteria for a variance. Staff recommends denial to keep a 6-foot tall fence in the front setback along the north and east line. The commission makes a final decision. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rain. Next, we'll hear from the applicant, and we'll start with 10 minutes, please. Please start with your name and address. Okay, can I ask the applicant to please virtually raise their hand? We're looking for the applicant. Oh, there we go. Great, we've got you promoted now. So once you unmute, please start with your name and address, and we'll start with 10 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can barely hear you. Do I need to turn the video on?
You don't have to if you'd prefer not to.
Okay, I don't need to. So this is Janet Titillion, and I'm the owner of 10501 West Shields Avenue, Boise, Idaho 83714. And we applied for this variance for the fence. Let me give you a little history about it. When we first bought this property, we put up the 6-foot fence on the bare lot. I went to the city of Boise. I talked to Perry Payne, and he was, I think, in planning and zoning, maybe permitting. I'm not sure what his title was. And he said we did not need a permit for our fence. So from there, we applied for a building permit to build our home, which we did, and we passed inspection. And removing the fence was not a condition of the permit. That being said, we just moved on and lived in our house, or my daughter lives in the house now. And everything was good. Because of the situation of the lot, we don't have a backyard, and we're using the west side of the yard as what would be a backyard. And Ms. Rain did note that on her reasoning for approving the west side 6-foot fence. So I am using her explanation for keeping the west side 6-foot fence as also the same reasoning for keeping the north side 6-foot fence to the driveway. So that would be the backyard. So in front of the house, we have no problem lowering that to either keeping it a 4-foot chain link fence or a 3-foot wood fence. So that part of the property is fine with us. I think it would look nice. But as far as security and as far as privacy for our backyard. So the reasoning we're asking also for the front setback for the first section on the front setback is all the reasonings that Ms. Rain gave for allowing the 6-foot fence on the west side also pertain to this section of the fencing on the north side. Does that make sense? And can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, sorry. If we have, there's a time for questions from the commission when you're finished. So if the commission has questions, they'll ask at that point.
Okay, so there is no, regarding the clear vision, it's a chain link fence. And as you can see from the pictures provided by Ms. Rains, you can see straight north to south and from west all the way to the house. There is no obstruction. You can see all the way around it. And there is also a 12 to 15 foot right of way, ACHD right of way before you even hit the street on Shields. So there is no, what do you call that? Anything blocking your clear view within that 30-foot triangle, clear vision triangle. There's nothing there. The neighbors have like 10-foot or taller shrubs in front of their house. You can't see their address, you cannot see their house, and you cannot see the cars backing in and out. Our chain link fence does not block any kind of vision for traffic, pedestrians, and bicyclists entering and leaving our driveway. So I ask that that you approve the 6-foot fence on the northwest side of the lot pertaining to what we would like to call our backyard, because we don't have one.
Thank you so much. So next we'll move on to hear from the Neighborhood Association if they're present. This is the Northwest Neighborhood Association. If somebody's here on behalf of the Neighborhood Association, please virtually raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to questions from the commission for the staff or the applicant. Commissioner
Madam
Glass.
Chair.
Oh, let's start with Commissioner Finfrock.
Thank you. I just had a quick question for the city. Could you go to an actual photo and show us exactly where the vision triangle is that the fence is interfering with right now?
So from the front view?
Or maybe, like I've seen this, maybe an actual photo. Yeah, maybe that would be good. Yeah.
The front of the house there you go.
Yes. So would it be behind the mailbox? Where exactly is that vision triangle? Can you point it out?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes, behind the mailbox, 20 feet from where that last post is on both sides would be the clear vision triangle.
Okay.
Can you guys make it louder? We can't hear you.
I can lean in a little bit.
Yeah, I can't, because we can't hear anybody. It's muffled.
We can all try to speak more loudly. And if you have a volume control.
It's all the way up. So, okay, I can hear you better.
Okay, all right, any other questions?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
So can we go to the one with the color coded of the fence lines? The red, green, and yellow, that one. Yeah, where we go. So, so the red line at the top is basically what we're fussing about tonight. Where is their property line and how much in the setback is that red line? Is the fence right now right on their property line?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Gillespie, yes.
Right. Okay. And so the problem, one just general problem is that the house itself, which for everybody is on the right side of the photo, the house itself extends almost to the edge of the setback, right? So the normal front setback matches the northern edge of the house. Is that more or less right? Does that make sense? So show us what the setback would, just use the arrow and move it for where the
Madam Chair,
top
Commissioner,
setback is.
according to my map, the house is at around 12 feet. So the setback should be around 15, according to my map and measuring.
So what's I thought it was 10 feet. Is the front setback fence distance 15 feet
Oh, for fence or for house?
for fence?
Fence can be right on, as long as it's on the property line.
Okay. But it's the height that's a problem if it's within the first 10 feet.
20 feet.
20 feet. Okay, so they're asking for a fence that's right on the line, 6 feet tall. Okay, I got it. Secondly, how much space is there, and I assume it's ACHD land, between that red line and the pavement? It looks like there's a fair bit of like gravel or distance.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, approximately 10, 12 feet,
And that's ACHD space, is that correct?
public right of way, correct?
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Schaefer.
the question for staff, Crystal, the applicant references a conversation that she had with Perry Payne in the city of Boise. Does the city have any record of this conversation?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, not that I could find.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
A follow-up question. So For the vision triangle, I know there's some restrictions as to what can actually go in that, but landscaping, there's some mention that landscaping is acceptable. Is there a height restriction to landscaping that can go into that vision triangle or anything like that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, plantings are also restricted to 36 inches within the clear vision triangle. Anything that obstructs vision within that clear vision triangle is limited.
Right, thank you.
Madam Chair, question for staff.
Commissioner Blanchard, go ahead.
Hi, Crystal, welcome. So what we're talking about is that on that red line there, typically on a in a clear vision triangle, fences can be no more than 3 feet high. Is that what we're asking here?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, in the front setback, the front 20 feet, fences are limited to 4 feet if they're see-through, 3 feet if they're solid, and then in the clear vision triangle, anything that is that would obstruct vision would be limited to 36 inches or 3 feet.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bratnober.
question for the applicant. Actually, maybe 2 questions. First is, you'd mentioned that there were areas along that northern area, that northern edge, where you are amenable to reducing the fence height. Can you indicate those a little better? I mean, yeah.
So from the driveway going east, we'd like to keep that 6 foot. It meets, I'm sorry, going west. It meets the same requirements as the approved fence on the west side. Now, from the opening of the driveway going east in front of the house, we have no problem lowering that to code height. It's going to be a chain link fence 4 feet, or if we decide to do a 3 foot wood fence. So we have no problem in front of the house. We would like to keep the 6 foot fence from the driveway going westbound. There is no obstruction of vision from going east or west leaving our driveway.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bratnober.
I'm trying to understand why you're amenable to it on the west side, but not the east side. And I'm not sure I followed that specific explanation you just gave. Did I lose you?
That was a question.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Oh, because the we have a power pole with our meter right in the center of that fence, just maybe, I think, a foot or 2, maximum 2 feet away from the fence. And if we lower that fence to 4 foot or 3 foot, passerbyers have access to our meter, to turn off our electricity, breaker box, everything. Because when we submitted plans to the city of Boise, the fence was up and that's where the meter box was put for the house. Because we're so close to the street, to put the meter box on front of the house would have been unsightly. There's no room on the east side of the house to do it. So because of the shape of the lot, we were limited of where we could put the house. And I don't know if you can see this, but on the the southeast corner, we had to actually give up 7 feet of the property to the ditch rider for access. So what we would have used back there, it would have been part of our property, we had to give up. And we couldn't put the house anywhere else because of the setbacks from the west side, from the street side, and from the canal side. And on the whole canal side is all commercial, and all of west side is commercial. So that's why we placed the house on the east side of the property, intending to use the west side of the property as a yard space, backyard, because there is no open space.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair?
Commissioner Bratnober.
Question for staff. So the meter that is evidently the problem here, is that outside the vision triangle?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, yes.
So is it indeed possible that they could do something there to make a potentially higher barrier from anybody fiddling with their meter and their box there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, landscaping outside of the clear vision triangle does not have a limit. However, any other type of fencing or barrier within that first 20 feet is required to meet those 3 feet, 4 feet limitations.
But this is outside of that 20 feet, is that correct? That vision triangle part?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, it is outside of the clear vision triangle, but it's still within the front setback. And so that whole area in blue there is this fences need to be 4 feet if they're see-through, 3 feet if they're.
I got you. It's not just the vision triangle. Okay. Okay, but landscaping, some bush or something that would obscure it would be possible.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, correct.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Blanchard.
question for staff. Crystal, how did this wind up before the city?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Blanchard, there is a open zoning code violation currently.
So, so this is came from code enforcement. So somebody would have had to have called.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Schaefer.
For staff, and I sorry, it's getting a little bit later and I've forgotten now. I looked at the code, and is there no differentiation between fence type once you get up to that 6 foot height? And the reason I'm asking that question is that this is an open fence. You can see through a chain link fence. So is there any sort of differentiation between a 6 foot privacy fence, or solid fence, as compared to a 6 foot chain link fence in the code?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, question of clarification. Do you mean in the front setback or just in general outside of that?
Just in general. Is there any sort of differentiation in the code where any language in there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Schaefer, once it's out of the front setback or the clear vision triangle, there's no differentiation. It just has a limit of 6 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move forward to the sign-up sheet, and we have one person signed up. It's Mark Olson. We have him here in the chamber. Please come on up, start with your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, this code violate one.
Could you pull that mic up so that they can hear you?
Touch it.
There you go. There's wipes right next to you if you'd like to
Okay.
use those.
My address is 10473 Shields Avenue, purchased the property back in '88. The reason I don't own that property is for absolutely everything they're discussing, okay? The Titillions made the decision to build that property the way they did. The day that fence went up, I was on the phone to code enforcement. We've gone through 5 code enforcement officers and the manager of the code enforcement, Tyler Johnson, to come out and take care of this. I'm very happy to be here this evening and nail this down. You go back to the shot of showing the actual existing fence, you will see the risers to the bob wire that was there originally. Okay, that the risers, if you zoom in, you can see on the corner there, and all the risers going across there. In 2018, code enforcement, Tom Hartman got him to remove the bob wire. He was informed that the Titillions were going to leave the risers for decoration. In my opinion, the risers are a part of the fence. They obviously need to come down. I like the conversation we had earlier this evening about a gateway. This is the gateway of my neighborhood. Okay, the conversations that neighbors have had when they came by walking by going, what is going on over here? And I'm, don't worry, we're working with the city. Martin Buesta tells me things take time, be patient. I think we've been pretty patient for the last 5 years. And so my main concern about it, the city's nailed it on what needs to be done. The 6 foot on the west side, you guys call it as you want. But the remaining of the bob wire needs to come down. This obviously is the front of the property. So all the way across the north side of the Shields Avenue needs to come down the 4 foot. It's pretty simple. I mean, you walk into City Hall and you pick up this little piece of paper. It's got your fencing codes on it. 2015, I guess there's some confusion if they were supposed to have a fencing permit or not. I called the city. The city says there was not a fencing permit pulled. So in my thought processes, I think the Titillians still owe Ada County / Boise City their permit fee. So we'll let you guys hammer that out. And yeah, it's been a learning experience, but that's what life is all about. And I'd just like to see the gateway of Shields Avenue brought into a situation to where when we do have Leap Industries come down the street and put in a very nice affordable housing project, that when the people drive by, they don't ask what's going on over here with all the commercial vehicles and out there on the west side of the property there, because there's more to be discussed here besides the fence, and we'll work on that with the city as the days go on. Thank you, guys. God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. So that is it for our sign-up sheet. Is there anybody online that would like to speak on this item? Please virtually raise your hand. And seeing none, then we'll move to the rebuttal from the applicant, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so the barbed wire was up when it was a vacant land and when it was under construction. And when we were done, we did remove it. So the risers were still there only because it's a hardship to go around and cut them down, but it's not, if that's an issue, we can cut those parts down, but that was during construction, not after construction. Other than that, it's like I said before, the fence was up prior to construction. And it was my understanding after talking to Perry Payne that you didn't need a permit for vacant lot fence and for construction. And then when we went for the building permit of the house, it was not a condition to remove the fence. And since then, we've been working with architect, landscape architect. You could see we started on the landscape in the front. Our clear vision triangle is clear. I mean, there's nothing causing any kind of danger. And the idea of, okay, lower the fence to 4 foot and then put 10-foot bushes up that you can't see through, I think that defeats your purpose of having a clear line of vision. You can see completely through our lot. We're not hiding anything. It's very safe, but having a 6-foot fence around the perimeter of what would be our backyard, our yard space, is for security. And the northwestern section from the driveway going west has meets the same criteria that Miss Raines gave for letting us keep the 6-foot fence on the west side. It's the corner lot, it's up to a busy street. And like she said, it's for security reasons. The house was broken into or tried to from a pedestrian walking by. We've had several encounters with the police, with our neighbors, specifically Mark Olson, who set fires all the way around the house. On his property, the trees next to our house on the west side, he set on fire. He set the canal on fire. He set the west side property on fire. He said he was just trying to burn the weeds, but that's not his property. It's ACHD and the ditch riders. And the fires were set all around my house. And that is why, that is the #1 reason we need a 6-foot fence, is for security. And like I said, the section from the driveway going westbound meets the same criteria that Miss Raines approved the west side fence. And there's no obstruction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now close the public portion of this hearing and the item is before the commission.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
move we deny CVA 20-48 for the reasons stated in the staff report. And both the partial, all the nuances, the partial approval and partial denial, I move we approve it as written in the staff report.
Second.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie. Sorry, we had a second from Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Gillespie.
So I think the applicant is trying to argue that there's no difference between the green section marked in our packet and the red section that abuts Shields. And there is a major difference, and it's the 50-foot plus distance. And that to me is a reason to allow that piece of the approval to go forward. I just don't see that reason on the north side or indeed on that little northeast corner. And I agree with the staff report. It's clearly right on the property line. It's unambiguous. The code is silent as to whether a 6-foot chain link fence should be treated any different from a solid wood fence. It's just a 6-foot fence. I am not persuaded by the argument that the security of what presumably can be a locked and monitored electric meter is salient, is important. I don't think it is. And finally, we have these setback rules for a reason. It's to preserve. It's not just clear sight triangles. It's also just to create a certain character that we want in our neighborhoods, and that's the way the code is written. And unfortunately, in this case, I agree with the staff report that there's just no reason to grant this variance.
Great. Any further discussion? Commissioner,
Yeah, sure,
Commissioner
Madam
Moore.
Chair. And in addition to that, I seconded the motion, and just because there's some discussion about the landscaping, but per staff confirmation, even landscaping is regulated in that vision triangle. You can't put 8-foot or really tall bushes or shrubs or anything in that vision triangle. So even landscaping, chain link fence, solid fence, everything is regulated in that vision triangle itself. It doesn't matter what it is.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Bratnober.
I'll also be supporting the motion. I got a bit confused when I kind of heard the story change. If the 6-foot fence is required for security, yet the part closest to the house on the east side of the driveway, it's okay to lower it to 4 feet per the applicant's testimony. I'm not really seeing that security as the issue there. And following on Commissioner Moore's statement, since it's outside the vision triangle, you can do a planting that, if you don't want to monitor it as Commissioner Gillespie suggests, you can put a planting there that will obscure the view of that electrical box and meter. So based on those two things, I don't find any sort of hardship here that would justify this.
Great. Okay, so we have a motion on the table as written in the staff report, which is approval to maintain existing 6-foot tall fence in the front setback along the west property line, and denial to maintain existing 6-foot tall fence in the front setback and clear vision triangles along the north and west property lines. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Benfrock,
Aye.
Ratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Great. Okay, item number 8, PUD 20-39 and CVA 20-52 for Rodney Evans and Partners at 3005 West Mallard Street. This is a conditional use permit for planned residential development, and also SUB 20-52 for Vancouver subdivision, a preliminary and final plat. Please go ahead, Mr. Moser.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the commission. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a planned residential development comprised of 4 attached townhomes on 0.28 acres located at 3005 West Malad Street in R2 zone. The application includes a variance for the building to encroach into the street side setback along Shoshone Street and for the driveway access points to encroach into the required separation from the intersection. Also included is a preliminary and final plat for residential subdivision comprised of 4 buildable lots. The proposal includes 4 attached townhomes arranged in 2 groups of 2. And as you can see from the site, from the aerial photograph here, the site is bordered by a mixture of residential densities, including single-family homes, duplexes, multifamily, and a manufactured home park to the north. In addition, the project is in close proximity to Shoshone Park, which is an amenity for the residential development as well as an amenity for the neighborhood. The development includes the construction of 4 attached townhomes. Vehicle access will be provided along Malad Street since Shoshone Street is a collector roadway. Driveway locations for lots 1 and 2 near the intersection requires a variance since it encroaches into the required 50-foot driveway separation from that intersection. This driveway is set back about 41 feet from the intersection. Street frontages abutting the site along Malad and Shoshone are improved with curb gutter and sidewalk attached. 2 off-street parking spaces will be provided for each townhouse within a garage. In addition, guest parking will be provided for each unit on the driveway apron. The site is large enough to accommodate the 4 attached townhomes, and the property is within the allowed density, or the project is within the allowed density of the R2 zone. The planned unit development is requesting waivers to the dimensional standards and as proposed, reduced interior setbacks to allow for the attached townhomes themselves. It will also include reduced lot sizes of approximately 2,728 square feet as a minimum and reduced lot widths of 31 feet. The planning team is in support of these requests as they are interior to the development and will create more usable buildable envelopes without adversely impacting the adjacent property. And I'll also note, as you can see here on the site plan, that the project does meet the required setbacks from the property to the south. So it's providing a 15-foot rear setback along the south property line and in excess of for 2 of the lots of that, and is providing a 10-foot setback from the west property line, which exceeds that of the zone. So it's providing and meeting the exterior setbacks required by code. A waiver from the subdivision landscape buffer a requirement is also requested since a 20-foot landscape buffer is required along collector roadways, Shoshone Street being one. The planning team supports this waiver since only 10.5 feet is available between the building and the right-of-way. The landscape buffer will contain 2 Class 2 trees, and a recommended condition of approval will require that this landscape buffer be placed in an easement. The applicant is requesting 2 variances, which are kind of noted here on the plan. The first one is to encroach into the encroachment of the driveway into the required 50-foot access point or 50-foot separation from the intersection you can see here. So the driveway just barely encroaches about 10 feet or so. And for the building to encroach into the side setback. Normally a 15-foot setback is required and they're only providing about 10.5. There is a hardship that justifies granting the 2 variances. The subject property is constrained by a 10-foot wide Idaho Power easement along the west property line. This easement pushes the structures 5 feet to the east and also reduces the buildable envelope for the subject property. As such, the buildings now encroach 5 feet into the street side setback, and it moves the driveway access closer to the intersection because of that Idaho Power easement. The building incorporates design features, quality materials, and modulation being one of them. The area marked in red is areas that are building facade materials that will be used or they're going to use masonry building facade to emphasize the base of the building. These quality materials will provide visual interest to the street facades. In addition, the applicant should create the appearance of a clear base, middle, and top through the use of materials and color changes. This will provide the required design interest and prevent the appearance of large wall planes. As such, a recommended condition of approval requires the applicant provide revised elevations that utilize colors and material changes that distinguish these clear base, middle, and top within the elevations shown prior to submittal to building permits.
with the use of the masonry, they've got the base. It's just we want to see a little bit more material here than just the horizontal siding along that street facade that's being proposed, and that's why we have that condition. So in summary, the project meets all the required findings as per code for the PUD, the variance, and the sub, and the planning team recommends approval of the planning and development variance and subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moser. We'll next move to the applicant. Mr. Semple, please start with your name and address, and you'll have 10 minutes. We'll start
Hi, Madam Chair and members of the commission. Ben Semple with Rodney Evans and Partners, 1014 South LaPointe Street, Suite 3, Boise, Idaho 83706. I want to thank David for his presentation. He did a great job kind of giving you the overview. As he stated, we are in agreement with all the terms and conditions of the staff report, first and foremost. And as David stated, the project does consist of 4 townhomes in duplex style townhomes to provide some additional housing. They will be for sale products. Each unit will provide a 2-car garage, and I'm going to share my screen for a second here. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the site and landscape plan. Shoshone Street here on the right, Malad Street to the top here. The 4 units will be accessed with shared driveways for each of the 2 units to reduce the number of driveway cuts out onto Malad Street. We did have some back and forth with ACHD. We initially looked at providing access off of Shoshone to rear load the units, but because Shoshone is classified as a collector roadway, we had to take access off of the lesser classified road, which is Malad Street as a local. Each unit will have a 2-car garage, and then there will be adequate space for up to 2 guest parking spaces in the driveway and outside the garage. So a total of 16 parking spaces, basically 4 for each unit. They are 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom units, very similar in massing to other properties in the area. If you took the building as a single home, each unit or each lot for the building would be about 70 feet wide. And that's very typical of the development patterns along this street. As David stated also, Shoshone Park is about 200 feet away from the project. Additionally, it's about a 1/4 mile to the west of Vista Avenue that provides additional transit options as well as education and employment and service opportunities. Let's see. We do feel that this is very cohesive to the neighborhood. Again, it fits in. We did have one rendering that was submitted. As David stated also, the bottom of these would be a masonry kind of water table. And we are doing there's a shake within the upper gable ends. And then we'll look at some variation in color and materials on the additional siding, specifically facing Shoshone Street. I did want to point out that the setback on our west side, as required by Idaho Power, there's a power line that runs through there. There's also a pole here that the neighboring property to the west, there's service that comes off of that. We have to maintain that pole per Idaho Power. So that requires an 11-foot setback to our building there, where 5 feet would only be required. If we didn't have to have that setback for Idaho Power, we are burying that line other than the service that goes to the adjacent property. But if we had a 5-foot typical setback in the R2, we would exceed our setback on the Shoshone Street side. We are exceeding the setbacks rear and front on all units for this. And again, we really feel like this will provide an additional housing option in the area. There's a lot of property around here that looks like it will eventually redevelop, and there already are duplexes, multifamily in the area that have single-car garages. So we feel like this is a step up in the neighborhood as well. And I guess with that, I would stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Semple. So let's see, this is the Vista Neighborhood Association. If there's anybody online from the Vista Neighborhood Association, please virtually raise your hand. And seeing none, We will next move to questions from the commission for staff or the applicant.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Glassby.
So let's just kind of quickly cut to the chase. So it sort of complies with R2, right? It meets everything except the interior setbacks, except for this pretty big problem on the east side where we're about 5 feet short, cutting into the setback, and this problem of the location of the driveway. And your understanding, my understanding of your explanation of why a sort of a variance or an exception should be made is that there's basically a power pole that's been there for the last 50 years on the west side and the associated easement.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that is correct. There's an Idaho power easement along the west side. It's 11 feet that basically they can't build in. If that wasn't there, they could maintain a 5-foot setback there, and all of this would meet the at least it would meet the street side setback at that point. But that easement pushing everything 5 feet to the east and into the setbacks. So that is correct.
Great. Any other questions before?
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Glassby.
It's a question for the applicant. So Ben, how come you can't skinny down each of your 4 buildings by 1 foot 3 inches and meet the darn setback on the east side? Sorry to be grouchy.
Madam Chairman, Commissioner Gillespie, we have looked at a couple different ways of resolving this. One of the issues that did come up during the neighborhood meeting and that we always hear about is parking. And to not have a 2-car garage as part of a single family residence, because these are single family townhomes, becomes problematic. We can't do tandem parking. The units right now, if we reduce them in size too much more, it compromises the interior space. And we did as much as we could. The applicant actually, or the developer is going to be burying the portion of the line. If we didn't bury the line that's over there, we'd have to be a minimum of 16 feet from the property line. So we're doing as much as we can to reduce that without also then again incurring more expense to reroute the neighbor's utility service as well. I'll go through the floor plans a little bit also. Front hallway here provides the stairwell to the 2nd floor and the hallway to the living space in the back. Here's the 2-car garage. Again, kind of just a mirrored unit here. You know, our let's see, we're about 4'4" plus the wall width here on our hallway. So if we tried to reduce that by 1'3", I don't believe we even meet building code in that at that point in time to provide access to for a hallway. And then it would also, we lose a 2-car garage, and thereby compromising the parking and what we would feel could potentially impact the neighborhood negatively if we didn't have 2-car garages for each unit.
Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
Question for the city. Does ACHD take a look at that driveway placement and how close it is to an intersection, or is this so small they just, or it's not a collector, so they take a pass?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, if you're talking about the encroachment into that from the separation between the intersection.
Yeah.
The highway district doesn't have a policy. That's a city policy. Not the highway district didn't mention it, nor did they discuss it. The separation is required by city code.
And again, Madam Chairman.
Commissioner Gillespie.
And again, the city's explanation of why we should disregard that part of code is the power pole on the west side. Essentially.
You are correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Any additional questions?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Bratnober.
Yeah, I just would like some clarification, and I think this is a question for staff. I had to dig around for it. I finally found something that kind of in an offhand way mentions demolition. Am I correct in assuming that that house that I see on the property is going to be demolished in order to put this development in?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, that is correct. That house will be demolished.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so we actually don't have anybody on the sign up sheet, and I don't see anybody online to testify, but for the sake of the record, I will ask if there's anybody that would like to testify. Please virtually raise your hand. And seeing none, we'll close. Oh, Mr. Semple, would you like the opportunity to rebut anything?
Madam Chair, I guess I just want to clarify that we do feel like it is a hardship with the power line running down the west property boundary that would justify the variance to the setback. We're providing a 10-foot landscape easement along the eastern property line, pretty heavily planting that. Also looking at architecture and materials on the street side of that unit on lot 1 to be able to provide, a good street presence there. We did discuss with ACHD the location of those driveway approaches, or I did independently during the layout of this project. And while they don't necessarily have a policy on it, they didn't identify that it would be an issue. We're just barely outside of that setback from the intersection there, from the face of curb. I believe it was 41 feet. And that was to the one side of it, to the center line of the driveway approach there for units 1 and 2. We would be at 50 feet from the face of the curb along Shoshone. And not that it really matters much, but there are other properties immediately to the northeast of this that have driveways within, I would say, 10 to 15 feet from the intersection of Shoshone and Malad. The only reason we didn't rear load this project and put a shared driveway off of the south property line coming off Shoshone is ACHD would not allow us to take access off of the collector roadway and required us to take access off of Malad, which necessitated us to come up with a different solution for getting to the garages associated with the project.
There we go.
Great. Okay, so now the item is before the commission.
Madam Chairman,
Commissioner Gillespie.
because I'm quick and fast and it's late, I'm going to make a motion. Much to everybody's surprise, I'm going to move that we approve PUD 20-39 CVA 20-52 and recommend approval of sub 20-52 with all the terms and conditions of the staff report.
Second.
Second from Commissioner.
Madam Chairman.
For Commissioner Gillespie.
I'm really grouchy about that darn east side, and it's a perfectly flat square lot, Ben, and frankly, I wish you could figure out a way to meet setbacks. They're important. We just had a long discussion of them. That said, I do think that the presence of the darn power pole and the related easement does constitute a minimal hardship that tips me in favor of it, because I do think overall it's a good project. I mean, it's a good place to have a little density. It comports with the zone, So that's my thinking. Close shave, but there you go.
Great, Commissioner Schaefer.
Madam Chair, I'm obviously in favor of the motion. I'm going to agree and disagree with Commissioner Gillespie. When I look at I agree that the issue is the power pole and the easement or the variance on the east side. But when you look at it per Ben's testimony here at the end, the rebuttal, the east building wall is closer to 17, 18, 19 feet from the face of the curb. So there is, pretty adequate space on that east side. And then when you compare what's there now to what's being proposed, we are benefiting from a handful of shade trees, additional landscaping, because what's there now is a lawn. So I think that the benefit of the shade trees, in addition to the excess space provided by the sidewalk, I have less concerns over the variance on the east side of the site.
Okay, so we
Madam
have.
Chair.
Table, sorry, we have on the table, Chris, I'm sorry, Commissioner Blanchard.
Oh, thank you. Just really quick. I will be supporting the motion, but I do want to just pick up really quickly where Commissioner Gillespie left off and say it is an awfully suburban looking product for what is an urban neighborhood. So I will definitely echo that sentiment too. These great big 2-car garage doors and all the hardscape, it really just makes it look really monolithic. I do want to commend David for his excellent staff work at making sure the design wasn't totally monolithic, because it looks like we got great big brown boxes in what was a cool, funky urban neighborhood.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve PUD 20-39 and CVA 20-52 and recommend approval of SUB 20-52. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Gillespie,
Aye.
Finfrock, Ratnober.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, and this meeting's adjourned.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, you guys.
Bye, everybody.
See you next month.